and hopefully you can see me on screen. I'm going to help you with a method that you can use right away, that you can do your own forensic auditing to understand what's happened in your precincts. This is not as much about election forward as, and I'm sorry for my voice, but you can do this election backwards. And I'm going to walk you through it very simple. I'm going to show to you specific evidence of how we devised this method using the Maricopa Full Forensic Audit Archives. So let me show my program. You're welcome to take screenshots, etc. I won't fool you. We have a big mission ahead of us. You know, we have multiple petabytes of physical forensic data. We are the only ones left standing. We have all the physical evidence down to the actual digital clones of the ballots. If anybody's going to be prosecuted at any time, you have to have the evidence. You can't just say they did it. You have to show they did it. And this is what the left does to us, trying to get us to play out, break up, not hold it. They did not account that I had the stick-to-itiveness to keep this stuff now headed on 5 years. We desperately need help keeping this. We're going to get clobbered in the midterms. They're going to restart up, impeach Trump, and then he's going to have an issue with the Emollients Clause. You can ask anybody that watches this what's going on, especially if you notice Kamala now has 75 million votes when she finished out the election at 68 million. They're continuing to add. So I'm going to help you understand a very simple audit procedure that all you need is a spreadsheet program. You don't need any experts, and you just need your own time and begin work with everybody out there who got cast vote records. This is a snapshot of a precinct in Maricopa. All of the precincts have this information if you know how to get it. You have their total assets, that's the top left, how many are active. You can find out how many they reactivated for any election. This one's 2020, so they reactivated 435. They'll show you exactly how many they're counting as positive and how many they still have as inactive, 622. They'll show you the turnout. Everything in our world relates to the precinct. You only need to know two things. Two things. Now, this is given that you can see the telemetry of the election. You know how many votes are coming in. That's where everybody was attacking the servers. But you only need two pieces of information to make it work, aside from time. You have to know exactly what the count is at any given time. And then you have to know by precinct exactly how many fungible assets do you have, meaning how many voters do you have to tap who have not come in and voted. This is primary what they do with the poll books, et cetera, to know who's there and who's been active. If we were just looking at this, and most people never do this, go backwards in time and look at your data. Why is it important? In Maricopa, when we were told it was an 87% turnout, if you were to look at 16, 12, 8 going backwards, you will find they've never had those turnout numbers. Everything plays by the precinct. I know I'm preaching to the choir. Understand your precincts, understand your numbers, because what we're about to do is reduce this to the ridiculous. Here's how it works. On my screen is a sample of a cast vote record. There are 6 versions of this. Write this down. Most people, when they did the Mike Lindell Get the Cast Vote Records, got the last text file. That's exactly what the county says happened. But remember, if you're doing an audit, you're trying to find out what really happened, okay? So there's 6 versions. The cast vote records begin with the pre-image. That's when the ballot goes in the machine. Then there is the post-image, the image of, okay, what happened in between adjudication. And then there is the text file, which gives it in a text version. And there's 2 versions of each. So inherently, when you ask for the cast vote records, if you just ask generically for cast vote records and you don't know what you're asking for, you're going to get the one they certified that they say is real. Now, what you're looking at right here is a post image. This is one ballot header. You're looking at a before and after I want to draw your attention to. Here's why. The ballot is code. And take that literally. The ballot is code. When you have a Tesla car and it's doing automatic driving, it is reading lines in the road, street signs, cars in front of it, etc. It's reading everything around it. I want you to understand one of the ways to understand what you're looking at is you got to understand that ballot is code as well. Forget the votes on it. That's not what this is about. This is about how can you understand the ballot code to find out what happened. Now, what I'm doing is I'm just pointing out some of the codes you need to look at if you want to find out how well your elections are run. So the top part above that teal line is the ballot header. If you look below, it's the same ballot header, but I have highlighted three things. There are three pieces of code there you need to know. What is it? Number one, you see it says EV. EV. That means this ballot is an early vote ballot. All ballots have this. This is an EV code. You can get an EV two ways. You can get it mailed to you or you walk in early vote. Now, the left half of the code is the ballot coding that appears on a barcode in the bottom, which is that 70328.00. That's the coding of the barcode. But that middle part, that 328, if you look to the right, that's the precinct. So now you have two other pieces of code. You have, this is precinct number 328. The name of that precinct is Jackrabbit. Okay. So now we've gone beyond the ballot. At this point, we don't care what the vote is. We're just looking at what does the data tell us. So in this one, it's telling us they got an early vote from precinct 328, which is named Jackrabbit. I'm going to show you another just to train your eyes. Okay. So you're used to looking at them. Here it is, top and bottom. The top one is the same ballot on the bottom. What do you have on the information here? You can also tell it's an EV, it's an early vote. You can also tell that the precinct is 123, Colonnade. Three unique pieces of information: Colonnade, early vote, and the precinct number. Remember, everything in our system operates off the precinct, approximately 175,000 precincts, okay? You don't need any math rhythms. You don't need any of this to understand it. This is just simple data. Now, this one actually has more information on it when it comes to a coding standpoint, far more. Can you tell what it is? From the first two I showed you, what's different in this one? Remember, the top and bottom are the same. I've gave you a cheat. I highlighted the bottom. What's different? What's different on this one is it has a color designate. Do you see it? It says purple. See it right there? Plain writing. So this one actually has more information. It's purple. It's an early vote. It's precinct 374 and it's Loma Linda. All of those points matter because now you have multiple things to audit. So what I'm talking about is when you get this data, okay, you're entering just those points. That's all I gave you, just those points into a spreadsheet. Now, can you understand, looking at an original ballot, why this is an important piece of information here? This says purple. You don't see any purple on it, do you? Not at all, but you see the word purple. That means when it was printed originally, most people never get the luxury of dealing with the real ballot, that bar to the left was purple. Here's an example. Now, when you're looking at a ballot in color, you have more code. You see the red printing up there? That's a piece of code. You see that yellow bar on the left? That's a piece of code. Now, what do we know in the difference between these two ballots? Well, the one below it is a green. But why isn't that bar green? The reason that bar is not green is because when you walk in on election day, they print the ballot for you on a print on demand machines. Those machines are black and white. If this one had an EV on the bottom, if it had an EV versus a ED and it was black and white, you'd know two things. Look up above. See, it says gold EV. That means it literally came in the mail. Why? Because we can still see it in color. When you walk in to do an early vote, and what they do is you're not using your mail-in ballot. They reprint the ballot for you. That ballot is now in black and white, but you can clearly see this originally started as a green ballot. All of this is information you need to know because these numbers are trackable. I'm going to show you how and why we use them. Now, if you only had the text part of the cast vote record, you could still derive this information. These are the pre-images. If whoever's getting them for you actually knows what they're doing, they'll get these. If you're just scrambling and screaming at a county, give me cast vote records, you're going to get it like this. Now, the information's still there. It's just in different places. If you look at across the header here, okay, you're looking at the tabulator that run it. That's 303002. You're looking at the batch number. It's very important by batch. You're looking at the batch number. You're looking at the number of ballots. If this batch had 200 ballots, this one's number 82 of 200. In that format, it's a TIFF, bigger, different image, and you can see exactly when it came on. But you see how you can still see the same information. You know this was precinct 497, and this was a green ballot. This is what it looks like if you only have the text part of it, okay? Now, in our system, most of you know me and Q codes and barcodes and all my patents for that. We basically created a new type of QR code regarding the precincts. What we did is we took a defined map. That's all of Maricopa there. You do not have to do this. I'm going to show you how to do it very simply. I'm just showing you how far we go first. There are 5 precincts, 5 voting districts that cover all the precincts in Maricopa. And then they're divided into small precincts inside that. If you were looking at any batch that ran in, we highlighted, we lit up the precinct, and you can see it here. It basically makes its own QR code. We can read this. We can look for duplicates. We can look to see if there's patterns we should recognize. Now, if you could zoom up on our maps, what you're looking at here is these are where 4 different precincts collide. You see the gray line, the green line, the red line, the blue line. That's the convergence of basically 4 voting districts. All those little squares and pieces and Rorschach, those are all voting precincts. When you see the call letters that we plot, what we're tracking is every single place somebody can drop off a ballot. Okay, now since this is within a map, within an area, we understand distances. Let me show you why this information is very critical. In Maricopa, there are 100 in all of Maricopa County area. There are 100 plus postal locations. Now, let me let you know what a postal location is. A postal location is a physical United States Postal Service office. Okay? If you were to also incorporate, which we did, there were 23 supposedly secure drop boxes, and there were 15 drive-through drop boxes. So we tracked everything. Okay. If you were to consider Maricopa itself, you have to understand the vastness of the Metroplex. Some of you may or may not be dealing with this, but you also have to understand the distances involved. Here's why. In Maricopa, it is 132 miles across from west to east. It's 103 miles north to south. That county, which is the 4th largest county in the United States, 2nd largest group of voting people, covers 9,200 square miles. It's a massive area. You'll see why this becomes important in a minute. Now, through Maricopa, what we're going to talk about here is we're going to talk about how the ballots came in. We're looking at the ballots. Understanding the full forensic audit, we've got the ballots. Some people think looking at the ballots is only looking for the votes. It is not. For our side, we didn't even count the votes. That's not what matters. What matters is, was the election run correctly? That's a maladministration issue. If your election was maladministered, you have the legal right to force the county to show you, no, we administered it correctly. That's maladministration. When you scream fraud, like everybody was trained, it immediately takes it out of the county, out of the state, and bumps it to the State Department. And we had Merrick Garland. The only people in a county that can declare fraud, your governor, your secretary of state, and your attorney general at the time of election. So if you take 2020 and what everybody was taught to say, fraud, 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 this is fraud, it's fraud, 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 that one word canceled 73 lawsuits in succession, because that is the wrong way to prosecute it. It's maladministered. Your job at the local level is only to determine, was the election run properly? That's it. And if you think it wasn't run properly and you think it was maladministered, you have standing to force your local elected officials to prove it was administered correctly. It is under maladministration that you gain your rights. Part of the con of 2020, not getting anything fixed, everybody was taught fraud, 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 and that's how they duped us. But here's how we look at this so you understand how this works. Let's take Maricopa County, which is a county that's almost exclusively mail-in ballots. They have been for a very long time. You need to understand how the post office works first. This is about to become very apparent to you. When you drop your ballot in a post office receptacle, it's basically called a two-hop. No matter where that ballot drops, it is going to go to one central processing center. Then it's going to go to the final processing center to reach the final address. I think everybody can agree that the mail-in ballots have the same address. They're going to one place. So if you drop your ballot in Maricopa, you can plot this for your city. It's making two stops. Let's chase this out. That means if you went down to your local post office and you randomly stuck in your mail-in ballot, when the post person shows up, they're grabbing all the mail. There's no order to it. They're throwing it in their little bags and containers. They're going to the regional center. The regional center, they're dumping it out. They're running it through all of them to know where it's going. Then it's batch sorted again to head to its final destination, which is basically MTEC in Arizona. That's how your mail is handled. Now, half of those mail-in ballots have a third hop. That basically means because of where you are in the city, it's got a third hop. You didn't go to the post office, you went to the box, or etc. So you dropped it in a post box, that's pickup one. It goes to that post office, that's pickup two. It goes to the regional, that's pickup three, before you ever get to MTEC. So I want you to understand the process here. If any of you have ever worked elections, if you went to a drop box, you pop off the security seal, you open it up, and just here's all these ballots. They may or may not be in a bin. All you're basically doing is raking them into a bin. If you're somebody for elections, you're counting how many there are. So if you pick up 715 ballots, you're going to say there's 715 ballots. You're going to basically, here's the code I cut off, here's the new code I'll put in, here's my name, etc. It's all trackable. Same with the post office. They're just going to gather them up. They're just going to drop them in. Now remember, batches for elections are different than batches for the post office. Batches for the post office is how is mail handled. batches for elections is how do we manage the election? And the average batch size for elections is about 200 ballots. That's going to become very important here in a moment. Now, I want to remind you, this is the only evidence left, folks. We can recreate the entire 2020 general election. Every person, every signature, everybody who touched it, every place it went, everybody was involved. This is the only evidence that exists. If we don't hold on to this, getting through 27 in these midterms, when the fights are really going to come, all of this is going to be lost, especially what you're about to see. Let's move forward. This is called a batch. Okay. And I'm going to show you several batches. I'm going to call some things out to you. Now, I developed this particular tracking program to just look at batches by precinct. It is not for voting. Batches by precinct. Okay? There are 748 precincts in Maricopa, Arizona. If you look at this batch, this is batch number 3. There are 3 pages in this report. Batch number 3 had 290 ballots. Look straight down. It says 0.70 early votes. That basically means this is predominantly an election day batch. It's 99.3% election day. Okay? There are 209 ballots. There are 201 precincts reporting. 201. Okay? Now, when you understand how they laid out the land in Maricopa, 748 precincts, they had over 200 voting places you could walk in and not get COVID. When you understand the ratio, we should be seeing about 20 to 40 precincts per batch. We're not. This one, we're seeing 201 precincts in one batch. How we count it here, we give them color bars. You see it, you can see all the numbers are the same. All of a sudden you get 6 ballots, then you get 5, then you get 4 at 4, then you get a bunch of 3s, some 2s, and then all of a sudden all we get is 1 for pages. Now, this is why the precincts matter. The majority of these precincts are 100 miles apart. Some of them 80, 90 miles apart from where this originated and got dropped. So you have to ask yourself, why would somebody go to a place you can vote in person, but their actual precinct is 97 miles away? So we chart every bit of this. So what we notice is, wow, this looks like this is being managed. You see it right here. We call it measured rhythms detected. We measured this against things in the past. 97% of these, we're saying something's going on here. Let's look at another batch. Here's another batch. I'm going to teach you how to read it. That's 3 right here. Okay, this is 291 ballots. This one is 3.64% early vote. So again, this is a blended batch. Okay, so it's 96.42 election day, the rest early vote. We see the same thing. We're hitting the same 98% number. All of a sudden they come in and it just goes 1 across the board. I'll show you a few more. This is batch 33. We're just going later. This one is 2.17% early vote. 149 ballots in this batch. This one has 101 precincts. Same thing. You hit this weird rhythm based upon where they were picked up or where they came in. And then all of a sudden it's just straight ones. That never changed, even in the early votes. If it was 100% early vote, it never changed, ever. Never changed. You can look at it here. This is basically telling you that 198 people early voting, dropping in their ballots in this one batch. Somehow, 95% of them came from all different places across the Metroplex, and that batch got there. So the first thing you start thinking about here is go, wait a minute. Are these things sorted in any way? Number one, when the Postal Service picks them up, they do not sort them. because they only have one destination. That's the MTech Postal Center. So the local postman doesn't pick it up. All they're looking at is where did it come from, where it's headed by that address. It goes to the regional center. It's dumped in with a bunch more. Never sorted. It goes to the final center before it gets to MTech. It's even more ballots. No sorting is done. Zero sorting is done. Now that's key to this. Let's keep on going. The key part of this is it just keeps on happening. So we try to understand what in the hell are we looking at that all of this has in excess of 90% of every single batch is showing just one ballot spread across all these other precincts. And it just keeps happening time and time again. It doesn't matter what it was. I just went from batch 3 up here. Let's see, this is batch, you can see it top, batch 3. This is batch 12. This is batch 33. This is batch 9,569. Same thing. Basically, what you have in Maricopa is you have 10,000 plus batches, and every one of them have this same feature in it. Every single one of them have this weird anomaly that somehow they got predominantly sorted 90+% into one for each precinct. Now the mail doesn't run that way. So you understand we have to investigate, okay, how does the mail do this? All those pieces, if they were to enter the facility on the same day and they get to the Postal Service can handle in their sorting machines about 30,000 to 40,000 letters per hour per machine. That's their sorting capabilities. But in these, there's no sorting. They're going to the same place. Now, what they turn around and do is now it's gone through either 2 or 3 hops. They reach in bulk, they grab anywhere from 500 to 700 of these ballots, and they basically put them in a tub, and then they pack those tubs, those trays. There's about 430 to 600 trays for just 300,000 alone, okay? They just stick them in there. There's no sorting because they're all going to one place. Now, what happens is the batch sorting occurs, if it's going to occur anywhere, it's going to occur at the tally facility. Now, this is where they take all of those ballots that come in bulk, and supposedly they just reach in and they pull out 200. So what we're supposed to understand is they get these big deliveries from the Postal Service. Here comes these tubs. Somebody at MTech reaches in, grabs 200 just so they can manage the load and say, okay, here's a batch. Well, MTech does not sort ballots by precinct at all. There is never a sort. And anywhere in the process, there's never a sort done. And you got 10,341 batches exactly this way. 10,341. What does it mean? Well, basically what it means, now you understand, this is where math does come in. We have made no assumptions. There's no fractal, there's no polynomial, there's no PCAPs, there ain't crap here. Give me the precinct number, tell me what kind of ballot it was, and where'd you stick it in the batch? That's it. We're not making any determinants about who got the vote, where did the vote go, any of it. It doesn't matter. This is why the paper is the only thing that shows conclusively what happened. And remember, anything you do on a machine to manipulate a vote, at maximum, it's a $1,000 fine misdemeanor. And that doesn't matter if it's 1 or 1 million, it's only one fine. You mess with a ballot, it's a state and federal felony for exactly how many ballots it was done to. That's the difference between the two fields. So when you're looking at this in Maricopa to understand how to do this audit yourself, what we found 10,341 batches. They all had the same repeating rhythm in arrival and runs. It is within a 0.2 statistical difference. By the way, that 0.2 statistical difference is exactly what Biden won the election by. If we go into it deeper and let the math speak to us, here's what the math says. This is math. And by the way, we've got 3 other very large auditing firms who have now confirmed this. These are not our numbers. These are their numbers now. We handed over all our data, had everything re-audited. Here's what they say. It's called a p-value. In auditing circles and forensics, it's called the p-value. It is what assesses the ratio that this is what happened. The p-value that this occurred organically is basically whatever number to the 10th power with 200 zeros. If you wrote that down, you would write 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then you would put 200 zeros behind it to get the odds that this occurred in a natural voting behavior. Now, based on that probability, they know that this has been managed to be indistinguishable. You can only find this if you look at the precinct. This is how you confirm for 10,400 batches, the entire election was managed to a predetermined outcome. But you got to go through every test. You got to go through every single test there is in forensics and mathematics and get them to confirm it. Here are what their confirmations tell us. That greater than 80% of the precincts, 95.21% of these batches, 98,437, were exactly subject to the algorithm we detected. And oh, by the way, there are 2,415 batches where it was exactly one ballot per precinct, equally spread to create that batch. They didn't even have variabilities. In other words, it is 100% verified. It's actually called uniform distribution. That's a p-value of 10 greater than 100 versus what you would expect as clumping. If something came from a drop box, you would expect a clump. If something came from a certain area of town, you would expect a clump. None of these get sorted. And so what you have here is these numbers. This is the observed reality of our numbers. I want to give you some scales of how you can determine this. You don't have to rely on anything except just put in the numbers, put in the data, the precinct, it will tell you what's up. Here's the deal. Most people glaze over when they see these. I glaze over. Fisher methods, we had to have binomial tests. We had to have random test runs. We had to have p-values. We had to have consecutive p-values, all this other stuff. Here's what matters. Here is the exact number of what you just saw. It would basically say there is a smaller chance of this happening by pure randomness than there is of winning the Powerball jackpot every single day for 10 billion years straight. That's the odds. That's measured by distance, by how the post office does these, etc. Every one of these things were manipulated. You would have a greater odd of winning the Powerball every single day for 10 billion years. These are the real world numbers. At the end of the day, it's a 1 followed by 11,800 roughly zeros. Just so you understand, this is less likely than every atom in your body spontaneously quantum tunneling to Mars at the same exact time, or that you could likely guess a random 300-digit number correctly on the first try, or that you can flip a coin getting heads 830 times in a row. These are the numbers. This is what's called prosecutable, irrefutable evidence that they changed the ballots. And by the way, you've already had all that data. You've had it for a long time, unless you listen to the people that we were a grift or didn't do a report. This is why they ignored it. You actually see every one of the ballots they inserted in 1 month after the election. So why do I hand you this? This is simple auditing, but you have to understand what you have to audit, period. In this scenario, we do not have to prove who won. If you're going and hitting the drum, Trump won, Trump won, Trump won, Trump won, Trump won, you're already out of the game because you're subject to a different law. But if you show them that the election was maladministered, it was run wrong, it was managed wrong, it was managed unethically, it wasn't handled properly. There's no way they did this. They couldn't have mailed these. The mail didn't come in this way. Then you open it up to maladministration. This is a low-hanging audit method that any one of you can do. Now, even though I showed you advanced math results, you can go back, you can look at your precinct, you can look at your county. Some of you are nowhere near in the millions as these are. But when you understand you have precincts and now they're trying to move to vote centers, you understand where to pick up the anomalies, especially those of you that have mail-in and have vote centers. This is why they're trying to get rid of precincts. This is a prime example of why we cannot get rid of precincts. It is the precinct that anchors the voter. If they get rid of precincts and they go to vote centers, this is almost impossible to audit. We have to fight for fixed precincts. We need to fight for smaller precincts. And we need to fight for transparency. Now, very few people, remember, the Maricopa Full Forensic Audit is the only place we physically got to do true forensics to the actual ballot. Very few people, I maybe in history, nobody will ever get that again because they're terrified of it. But because some of you can get the cast vote records or did before half of the states outlawed them, you can go back, you can go to these sites, grab a batch, follow only the precinct, the type of ballot, and the colors. You can arrive to the same place as if you looked at the original ballot. You're not looking at votes. You're just looking at, was it administered correctly? And this is how you can find things that actually prove, well, you had 105% turnout. They tend to hide it in the ballots. Then they'll tell you you're crazy when you try to do it by the voter rolls. But remember, if you stay away from basically saying it was the machines and only deal with the paper tells you exactly what happens. And if that paper tells you for this precinct and this group, you had 105% turnout, you have a case of maladministration. That's how you fight this. That's how you defend it. Folks, this is the only evidence in the world like this. And by the way, I just showed you one of 25 different forensic examinations we did. All of them show the same thing in a different way. This is why they're trying to wait us out. This is why the left attacks us. This is why the right attacks us. This is why they tell you not to listen, because the paper's a felony. This is racketeering at its worst case. They want you to stay on the machines because it's a misdemeanor that'll never get fixed. I yield. Thank you.
Jovan, people are texting me how they reach you, where they get on your program, et cetera, et cetera.
My program is on Rumble every day, 7 a.m., 7 p.m., 7 days a week. It's Jovan Hutton Pulitzer, my full name, Jovan Hutton, Pulitzer, Pulitzer. It's also my email at Gmail. I don't care. They read everything anyway. I have nothing to hide. You can find our Give, Send, Go. I'll put it in chat. You got to understand how critical this is. They try to wait out the game so everything's destroyed. Even if you can get to court and the court says we need to see the physical evidence, that physical evidence is gone. I highly doubt the 148,000 ballots that my team, by the way, was supposed to get in Fulton County, Georgia. I don't think they're still in those 700 boxes. We're going to get a lot of other stuff, but we're not going to get those. Okay. And so this is all that exists to show what happened in 2020. We'd appreciate your support. It's an ungodly amount to keep this going in perfect chain of custody, which is what you have to do. Take it out of chain of custody, it's over. You can never use it again.
Thank you very much, Jovan. We really appreciate it. A lot of text, and people are coming in from all over the country and the world, actually.
40 minutes. How was that? I have 5 minutes extra. Take it.
Take care. Thank you very much. Next up is Bill Federer. He's got to make a flight, and after that, we'll get on Linda Sinkowitz. So Bill is a author, I think about 40 books, and a public speaker. We're lucky to have him on, and we have to find people to come on. We don't want to get the same people on all the time if we don't have to. So Bill, come on down. Hopefully you make your flight.
Hey, well, I appreciate Jovan so much. Wow, that is absolutely tremendous information, and I definitely recommend everybody support what he's doing and get all the information that he has. And Steve, I thank you. A lot of people know a whole lot more than I do. I have personal experience. I ran for Congress in 98 and the year 2000 against Richard Gebhardt. He was the #1 Democrat in Congress at the time. And I experienced things way back when. So the first race in 98, we get calls that my name was accidentally left off the ballot in 5 wards in the city of St. Louis. People went in to vote for me. My name wasn't there. And so when we brought this up, the response was to keep the polls open till midnight and just tell everybody to come back and vote again, which obviously there's no way that you can tell who voted and who didn't if they're coming back a second time. The next time, 2 years later, I ran against Richard Gebhardt, and it was a big race. We had the president's uncle co-chair my finance committee, Bucky Bush. We had the top 3 members of the U.S. Congress come in and campaign for me. At the time, it was the Speaker of the House, Dennis Hastert, Dick Armey, J.C. Watts. We had Ted Nugent during commercials, and Pat Boone, and Art Linkletter, and Zig Ziglar, and Alan Keyes, and Judge Roy Moore, and Phyllis Schlafly, and Chuck Norris. And anyway, it was one of the top, most expensive congressional races that year nationally. But the second time I ran, there was a person named Robert D. Odom who supposedly went in to vote, and his name was not on the registered voter list. So he brought a lawsuit to keep the polls open late. I sat in the courtroom on election day, and the judge ordered the polls to stay open till midnight and tells everybody to come back and vote again. The next day, they found out that Robert D. Odom had died 2 years earlier. It's like, well, who brought the lawsuit? Well, somebody in the Democrat Party. And it went from front page to back page till it was forgotten. And then at this time in Jefferson County, I was ahead, and then the electricity goes off in the Board of Election. When they reboot, I go from being ahead to behind. And when we asked, why did the electricity go off? Oh, the construction. Like, who's doing construction on election night? And then I stood in front of Guffey Elementary School. It was the largest precinct in Jefferson County all day in the cold. That night, our volunteer at our watch party, I get a phone call, and our volunteer at the Board of Election in Jefferson County said they can't find the box of ballots from Guffey Elementary School. It's like, I stood in front of that polling place in the cold all day, and you're telling me they can't find the box of ballots? Who's in charge? Well, some 80-year-old lady, and she went home 2 hours ago. Well, who else is in charge? And we finally do enough asking that they find the box of ballots in the basement, and one person brings it up on a cart where the law says every box of ballots to be in full view of a Democrat and Republican until it's counted, and everybody sees there's only one person, so it wasn't. Anyway, then we had nursing home ballots. And the one lady, she said her mom had voted, and she goes, my mom has Alzheimer's. She does not even recognize me anymore. How did she know who to vote for? They said, oh, they had somebody help her. And then we looked into voter registration, and 75 people were registered to a city parking lot. And for those not familiar, they want to have more registered voters if they died, move out, or whatever, because then they can do the voter fraud and it'll be less than 100% turnout, and they won't question it. So these are just some of the examples when the urinal was stuffed in the Georgia election counting facility, and they decided that there was they called it a plumbing main break or something, but it wasn't. But they cleared the building to do what they did. I had people call me that I hadn't heard from in 20 years. And they said, this reminds me of what they did to your race. So these are tactics that have been perfected, and now with computers. So Phyllis Schlafly was a friend of mine. I knew her for 40 years, believe it or not. And I spent 2 years with Phyllis Schlafly collecting all the stories of voter fraud from all around the nation and compiled them all from all of her Eagle Forum members. One was a lady in Texas, and she goes to her mailbox, and there's all these voter cards for people with names that she didn't recognize. And when the yard group comes up to do her yard, she says, "Are these your names?" They go, "Oh yeah, they are. Thank you." And they said somebody came by and said it would help them become a citizen if they could register to vote. And they didn't have an address, so they used her address. But one thing is for certain, there was a Wall Street Journal article back then. A woman named Mercuria, she got her doctorate in voter election fraud in machines, and said you can have accountability or anonymity. You cannot have both. Now, for those not familiar, in America, you used to not be afraid of let people know who you voted for. They would even print the recommended ballots in the newspaper, and people would put them in their pocket, and there would be different colors, a pink ballot or a blue ballot. And as they would go to the polling place, they would proudly show, sort of as a bumper sticker, who they were going to vote for. In the Deep South, after the Civil War, the Democrats would frisk Black people who were going to vote. And if they had a Republican ballot, they called it the Radical Party, they would accost them or lynch them. And so the idea was to borrow from Australia, the idea of having the names pre-printed on a ballot inside the polling place, so you didn't have to carry something with you so that you wouldn't get lynched. But prior to the Democrat, of course, the Congress also, Ulysses S. Grant passed the Ku Klux Klan Act to stop the Democrats from doing these lynchings. But you can either have accountability or anonymity. You cannot have both. The SAVE Act is what we need to pass. I think we need to call Thune's office and tell him that needs to get through, because if we don't, as has already been shared, if we don't secure the midterm elections, they win, it's impeachment, it's over. They won't stop with Trump and the administration. They'll go off after all the supporters. I just did an article on what happened when Jimmy Carter abandoned the Shah in Iran and let the Ayatollah take over, and he hunted down all the Shah's supporters and killed them, tens of thousands of them. Even Ronald Reagan mentioned it in his speech. And so they're not content with going after Trump. They want to go after you and me. We have to win the midterms, and we have to have secure elections. We have to have this SAVE Act passed. And I just encourage everybody to call Senator Thune's office and say this needs to be top priority.
Thank you very much. Have a good flight, and we'll get you on again. Next up is our good friend Linda Sinkowitz, fightvoterfraud.org. She has a great show on the OBBM network. Thanks for coming down, Linda.
Thank you, Steve and Raj, for having me on. The big thing that we are pushing everywhere is our Operation Verify Voters 2026. What we would like to do is train as many people as possible, because there's some people who also don't like to join groups, but they want to do something. Who better than to know their own street on who has moved, who has died? So we really want to drill it down to the people within the community and show them how they can make a difference. And they definitely can make a difference. We will also hold their hands if they don't want to submit the stuff themselves. We'll show them how within each state how to challenge the people that should not be on the voter rolls. So the easiest way to sign up for this, just go to our website, fightvoterfraud.org, and there's information on there. You can send an email to info@fightvoterfraud.org. And right now, we do have something else that we will give to anybody who wants it, is we've already done the analysis on 13 states across the country, on the ones where they have violated HAVA and NVRA. And we'll also break those 13 that we have already down to the counties or to even to particular towns. We've decided that we are not sending the information anymore to election officials because it's an absolute waste of our time, because we wouldn't have to be doing the analysis and showing where all the issues are if they would actually just do their jobs and clean the voter rolls. So what we're asking people to do again is, sign up for our classes. It only takes about 15 minutes, very simple. We do have some other advanced classes as well. But again, we want to get as many people as possible looking after their own community. We know how important 2026 elections are in this country, and we really need to have as many eyes and ears out there as possible. My assistant and I will also travel. If you have a number of people that you want us to train in person, we can work that out as well. Otherwise, we do most of the training online, or if you're within driving distance, I'll head out and do the training myself. But again, we want to make sure that we have everyone getting involved. And as far as the number of states that have already reached out to us, we already have 16 states, people in 16 states who have stepped up to the plate in the last 3 weeks. So we would really, truly appreciate if you have an organization, contact me as well. It's very simple, all the stuff that we've learned. We also have an advanced class where we have put together the information to do a deep dive and what you would need to bring it to your own law enforcement. It's a book about that thick, but we have every single state. And currently we're 3/4 of the way through updating it from last year to make sure all the links actually work. So again, please go to our website, fightvoterfraud.org. If you need your group to have a little video, I have a 90-second video we can send you that will again explain what we're doing. And again, it's Operation Verify Voters 2026. So thank you so much. And I have put it in the chat, our website, the email to email. And if anyone wants to call me, that phone number goes right to my phone. Thank you so much, Steve and Raj. I really appreciate your letting me get this out there.
Yeah, Raj, we got a little extra time. We got a special guest, Colonel Tim Schindler. See if you can find him on there.
Stand by. Dr. Schindler, go ahead and if you want to turn your camera on, you're up, sir. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, thank you. First off, let me get this here for you. Thank you. Do you have me there?
Yep, we got you. You're
I
on.
do. We can see you. Thank you.
Okay, so
I hear a phone ringing somewhere.
yeah, that was just getting. I'm just coming out of the office. I was asked to speak. I was asked to speak. That was a great talk earlier. It reminded me, with all the statistics and the numbers and all that, reminded me of my time in the Naval Academy. When I did all that stuff. Very interesting. My professional expertise right now is I'm a social engineer, and what a social engineer is somebody that they bring on board when they want to figure out what they want people to do and make them happy that they're doing it. It's a piece of applied social science. And the reason that we use this is because it helps focus people where you wish to focus them while you stay free with whatever your strategic objectives are. In other words, it keeps the workers working while you got the leadership doing what leadership does. Okay. And it's applied social science. And what was real interesting to me, and I was amazed because I took a look at the articles that are coming out today where everybody's extolling the fact that they passed the 7147 and 7148, which were the two funding bills that fund the U.S. government all the way through September. And what was interesting about it was they didn't really talk about what really happened, the propaganda effort. And I thought that was amazing, because if you think about it from like a social engineer's perspective, if I want people to focus on something where it can't make a difference, in other words, a tactical activity, while I'm doing a strategic activity, this is exactly the way I would set it up. Because the first thing we think about is, what is the area of scope? Well, it's 435, districts broken into 2 sections of Congress, each one a year. That's why we have the first section and the second section of each Congress. And what was really interesting is on the very first day of the 119th Congress, probably the most seminal piece of legislation, maybe in the last 100 years, was actually introduced into the Congress. And then it was pushed out on April 25th, 2025, which would have been in the very first section of Congress. And that bill essentially did the following. It required individuals to provide documentary proof of U.S. citizenship when registering to vote in federal elections. It forced the states to remove non-citizens from all the official voting rolls. And it also gave an individual right of action to anyone to challenge an election official if they indeed entered into the voting rolls an individual that did not present certified credentials indicating they're a U.S. citizen. And then, of course, it established penalties, legal criminal penalties that could be applied for somebody who did register a voter improperly. That is what we would refer to as a strategic driver, because, like I said, I don't really worry so much about the voting and all that, because it only matters who counts the votes anyway. And I can run the show and make people believe what they're seeing is real. And we call this the illusion of choice. So if I want to pacify a group of people, I'm going to use the illusion of choice. I'm going to let you think you're really doing something. And this, of course, was, we exercised this in Iraq, and then again in Afghanistan, when we built the models that we used to empower the people to vote, of course, for the people that we told them to vote for, right? And that's how that's done. So what's really interesting to me is this was the most seminal piece of congressional legislation, yet it wasn't really ever driven. It wasn't ever publicized. The American public quite frankly, had no idea. As a matter of fact, when I first started asking people about the impact of HR 22 and how was that linked into the larger biosphere of individuals that were in America, did they go down to 3,143 congressional? Did they go to all 435 congressional districts? Did they take a look at all 3,143 counties? Did they bust it out and say, hey, this is the most important piece of legislation that we will see? As a matter of fact, if we don't get this legislation passed, the next election cycle is going to be moot, because strategically you've already been defeated. So I took a look very carefully, and that the Safeguard American Voter Eligibility Act, it was never even included in the omnibus. Now, what's really interesting is the people who actually do this, and that would be the people who sit down, and that's why you talk to the Speaker of the House, you talk to the senior Democrat, you talk to the pro tem of the Senate, which is Grassley, and then of course you talk to John Thune, and then you talk to Schumer. They pacified the population by throwing tidbits to them and all this kind of stuff. It was all exciting. But if you take a look at the soundbite that's coming out now, it says, very bad, 21 members of the House, all Republicans, very bad people. They said that they would not vote.
Doctor, 1 minute. Okay, you got 1 minute, Laura.
Yeah, they would not vote for the legislation if it didn't include the most seminal piece of protecting the vote. And they didn't do it. So strategically speaking, they accomplished the larger goal. So the pacification operations to the public for voting in the 3,143 counties isn't really going to matter, quite frankly, because the vote anomaly is there. So what's really important here is to understand why you had one congressman who refused to play ball and said, I refuse to sign a bill to fund the government unless you include HR 22. And that he's being pilloried right now. I don't have any great love for him, but the reality is he's the only guy that voted his conscience. 110 congressmen said they would not sign another piece of legislation unless it was included. But when vote day came, guess how many actually followed through? And the guy's name is Thomas Harold Massey. And he said, I'm not going to do it. And I refuse to sign it. I will not. And my question is, how are the linkages being done? Does the public understand this as part of your overall strategic campaigning? Are you linking that together in 3,143 counties? Is that being synced with 435 congressional districts? Do you have a strategic plan to look at that? Because I assure you, somebody else did. It's intuitively obvious because that's
Next time, I'm sorry, we got to move on. I try to squeeze you in. Thank you very much.
you're welcome.
Next time, we have one of the most important people on this call, the lead attorney for Tina Peters. We all make this show for her. We want to introduce John Case. Thank you very much for coming on. I just spoke to Tina Peters' friend. She's coming on now to listen to you.
Well, Steve, thanks for having me. Can you hear me all right?
Ken, you're perfect.
Okay, good. So I'm not sure how much your listeners are familiar with Tina Peters, but she's the former elected clerk of Mesa County, Colorado. And in 2021, she was informed by the Secretary of State of Colorado that they were going to come out and install new software on her voting system in Mesa County. So when she looked into the matter, she realized that the installation of new software was going to erase some of the federal election records that she was responsible for preserving as county clerk. That's by federal statute 52 USC 20701. So she asked the county IT department if they would oversee this software modification process, and the county IT department said no, they wouldn't. So what she did then is she was introduced to a white hat hacker named Conan Hayes, who had worked for the FBI and other federal agencies and had a security clearance. And she asked him if he could help, and he said yes, he would, but she would have to protect his identity, otherwise he wouldn't assist. So Tina agreed, I'll protect your identity. And so when the time came to do this software upgrade, the Secretary of State said, well, you can only have county employees in the room that work for you, only 2 of them plus yourself. So she got another county person, a local computer contractor named Gerald Wood, and he agreed to first he agreed that he would oversee the software modification, but then he bailed on that and said, well, I can't do it myself, but I'll get a county key card, and then this other guy Hayes can use my key card to get into the room. So that's what happened. And Tina, first of all, had Hayes make forensic copies of the county voting system, and the Secretary of State did not know that. And the second thing is she had Hayes come into the software modification and oversee it. Didn't interfere, he just observed what was going on. And she introduced him as this other guy Wood. So in August of 2021, knowledge of this came out. It was released on the internet without Tina's permission. But anyway, that started just a persecution of her. Dominion demanded that she be prosecuted. The DOJ was involved, the FBI was involved. The FBI raided her house and seized all her computers and went to a couple of other people's houses as well. And then 2 state attorneys general got into the case, and then the local DA got into it. And eventually she was charged with basically misleading the Secretary of State. And she was found guilty of 4 felonies and 3 misdemeanors. And the judge at her sentencing had this to say. He said, in so many words, I'm putting you in prison for 9 years because of the terrible things you've been saying about our voting system. This is an exact quote from the judge. This is what makes Mrs. Peters such a danger to our community. It's the position she held that has provided her the pulpit from which she can preach these lies, the undermining of our democratic process, the undermining of the belief and confidence in our election systems. Prison is for those folks where we send people who are a danger to all of us, whether it be by the pen or the sword or the word of the mouth. So we appealed for Tina, but the judge wouldn't grant her bond on appeal. Normally with a white collar criminal who's a first offender, nonviolent, it's routine to grant them bond while their appeal is pending. And we had very good grounds for the appeal because Tina wasn't allowed to present a defense. Her defense was that she was executing a public duty, and the public duty was to preserve election records. But the judge wouldn't instruct the jury on that. He wouldn't even let them see a copy of the federal law that she was obeying. So we had good grounds for the appeal. She was denied bond, and she's now been in prison since October the 3rd of 2024. So it's over 16 months that she's been in prison. So we've argued the case in the Court of Appeals, and after the argument, the Colorado Attorney General filed a notice with the Court of Appeals saying, hey, we made a mistake in our briefing and we want to correct it. So we were hoping that we would have a very quick decision from the Court of Appeals, because at oral argument on January 14th, there was a 3-judge panel. They were really well prepared and had great questions for both sides. So we were hoping we'd get an early reversal of her convictions and that she'd be out. But instead, the Attorney General filed this notice saying, hey, we made a mistake in the briefing. And now the Court of Appeals has extended the briefing for another 3 weeks. And after that, even if they ruled immediately on the new briefs, she'd have to spend another 42 days in prison. So we just filed last Friday a request for a bond pending appeal while the court is ruling on all these things. Just let her out. She doesn't belong in there. She's been assaulted 5 times in prison by violent criminals. The last person who assaulted her is in for 6 years for stabbing her fiance in the back 3 times with a knife and stabbing her brother once in the hand with a knife. And that person assaulted Tina in front of a surveillance camera. She assaulted her off camera, and then Tina pushed her away and pushed her out toward the camera. And then the gal said to Tina, you know you're on camera, right? So the whole thing was a setup. The governor at the time was considering commuting her sentence, but because of that assault case that was manufactured, nothing has happened with commuting her sentence. So anyway, that's where we are today. And if anyone wants to find out more about Tina Peters, go to tinapeters.us. You can support her attorneys there financially, which we appreciate because we're struggling just to pay our own expenses. And you can also find out the latest news on her case. That's tinapeters.us.
John, if people want to get a hold of you or they want to donate to Tina, we also want to make sure that we call the governor and ask him to release him. I know he's running for president. They can call 303-866-2471. About 6,000 people called yesterday. Every day we try to get people to call. Every show that I get on, I was on BAM this morning and held this up. The more people that call, the better it's going to be. If we had millions of people calling, you'd be surprised how the governor would hear about this. So if any suggestions on this?
Oh, that's tremendous. Thank you so much, Steve. We appreciate all you're doing and all that your audience is doing. Yeah, Tina has tremendous support nationwide. We're very grateful.
Well, we know that. We just got to get it released, where everybody's doing everything. Everybody, is, we have people lady texted me from South Dakota yesterday saying she's getting people on. She's going to make a song for her. I mean, she is a treasure for this United States, and we appreciate you very much coming on. And whenever you get updated news, we'll grab you and we'll put you on. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Steve. It's a pleasure.
You got it. Okay, next
So
up.
Steve, before our next speaker, let's go ahead and put the flag shirt message on.
Go ahead.
Okay, great. There we go. Let's turn the camera on here. So everyone, thank you guys for being here. Obviously, you're hearing a lot of what is needed to make all of this work. We've got all kinds of special events coming up. We got Valentine's Day coming up. We have the 250th anniversary of this phenomenal Republic. You can see Steve wearing the very, very cool hat right there. Guys, these are awesome gifts. I can assure you, my friends, when you wear them, people smile. When you give them as a gift, people smile. So to get you in the mode to go over to the flag shirt and click that buy button, because when you click that buy button, that is what helps finance this entire operation that you are part of every couple of weeks. So this is really, really important. I'm asking you guys to really make a intentional thought of buying some of the merchandise. It's a phenomenal gift. It's going to be great for anyone you gift it to. And if you haven't yet, you need to gift yourself with this fantastic garment. So here, check this out here, and just be reminded of what's possible at theflagshirt.com. Here we go.
What defines the American spirit? Preserving life, liberty, and pursuing happiness. Caring for the nation we call home and its people. As patriots, it's our duty to drive the entrepreneurial spirit, pushing hard, reaching for success, sharing patriotism, because the American way of life is for all to live. The Flag Shirt, where freedom reigns.
Thank you very
Okay,
much.
so there you have it. And again, just look at our model here, Steve Stern, modeling this fantastic, beautiful hat here, America 250. Guys, this is going to be everywhere. People are going to be wearing these garments all over. So please, please, please help us, help election integrity. Oh, there you go. Hang on, Steve. Let me just put Steve on here as a standby. Let me just add him spotlight. Okay, great. Check this out. Look at that gray shirt. United States of America 250th anniversary. Steve, do these come in other colors or just this fantastic gray?
About 10 different designs. This hat just came in, which I'll change. That's a new hat that just made, the 250. We have people at the fairs, actually, a couple of my friends, vice chair, I'm the vice chair of Broward County. We have a vice chair that's showing this in Palm Beach, and then he's going over to Tampa. He bought 4 or 5 hats, and everybody's asking where they got them. So we appreciate everybody that gets one. You know, I don't have a lot of time to talk about the flag shirt. I'm in business 72 years. You don't find too many old guys like me still working, but Jovan has me working day and night so we can support these calls. And we appreciate everybody that buys a hat or a shirt. We have ladies, men's, everything under the sun, children's, babies, everything. So we're doing really good. We're coming up with more sites, so we appreciate it, but we have limited time today because we want to get the speakers on. So thank you very much, Raj. You know, I know you're doing a terrific job over by Venice, and you're going to Connecticut. We got a candidate running up there. We got to win the House. And we're going to talk about precinct strategy a little bit later. We'll get into that, but let's get Greg Stenstrom up because we got limited time.
Awesome. Here we go, Greg. Go ahead and unmute.
There we go. How do I, you got me,
All right,
Raj?
Greg.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we
Good
can
to
hear
be
you
here.
and see you. Go right ahead.
Unlike previous, I don't always get to watch the whole show, but I started out early and was able to watch the show and see my good friend, Colonel Schindler on, and saw his. So I just wanted to follow up and just briefly, I think with the SAVE Act, just wanted to briefly touch on that and make sure that people understood. In fact, I got it in here so I don't mess up. The Safeguard American Voter Eligibility Act. And the purpose is to ensure only U.S. citizens vote in federal elections. And as Colonel Schindler described in his previous presentation, that that was included in the bill that was under consideration yesterday, and it was excluded and taken out of the bill. And he explained the mechanics of that. But I really think the reason I wanted to bring it up is it's an incredibly important aspect. I think President Trump and the executive branch and it's going to be critical to securing our 2026 elections, because I don't think the courts are probably going to get it done. And I don't think the Congress is going to get it done either. So it's going to be up to President Trump to push this SAVE Act through and people that support him. So I want everybody here to know that, and everyone to continue to support and pay attention to that, because it's going to be critical to the 2026 elections. In terms of what's going on here in Pennsylvania, I'll start there because we have people from all over the country, as like we do as usual. And currently we have multiple cases before the Pennsylvania courts. I think two of the most important ones, at least that I'm involved in, is Stenstrom versus Delaware County, which is case 2025, CV 2025-009036. And that is going to go to a hearing here on February 13th that they've delayed now for since before the elections. And what that case is specifically about is they are not using certified machines, not only in Delaware County, which is 500,000 people, but they're not using certified election machines anywhere in Pennsylvania. And that's true throughout the country, but I just want to focus on Pennsylvania right now. It is federal law, federal statute under 52 USC. It's a federal statute that machines must be certified with legitimate code that's tested and that is verified and has a signature authorized by the EAC. Not only is no one doing that in Pennsylvania, and they're certainly not doing it in Delaware County, what we've determined through their own filings from our opposition here in Delaware County is they're using compromised code. I think Jovan touched on it earlier, but our lawsuit says not only are you not doing the tests, it's called the software validation test, the code that you do have loaded, you've shown it has malicious code. So we have malicious code in these machines in Delaware County, Pennsylvania, and we have malicious code loaded in most of the machines in Pennsylvania. So that's a critical case. And it's from a jurisdiction perspective, and the way the law works is they knowingly ran the elections in Pennsylvania and in Delaware County with machines that were not certified. And they were properly notified and noticed that it was unlawful to certify the election afterwards. And that once they did, they came back and they said, well, it's moot now. We just ignored your case, and we just, we had the election anyway, we certified it. And, they just say, you're mooted. We're not mooted. The law, there's 4 separate cases that we gave them and the statutes to stay that they must decertify an unlawfully certified election. So that's where we are going into the court next week on the 13th in Delaware County. There is a hearing schedule. We'll get that word out to everybody. Should be an interesting hearing. But we've also brought forward the problem that they, with mail-in ballots, with the handling of the machine, the vote afterwards, there was no reconciliation. In a nutshell, it was a fraudulent election. Absolutely a fraudulent election. At a minimum, it was not run in accordance with law. And this is a precursor to what we're going to see in the upcoming primaries and the general election in 2026. It's what they're going for. That's why I led the conversation off with the SAVE Act and how important that's going to be, just so that we only ensure citizens are able to vote first, and then hopefully with executive action and DOJ action by that time, we will ensure that the machines are certified and that mail-in ballots, if they're still even being used by November, will be properly there'll be a imprimatur, and there'll be a chain of custody on these mail-in ballots, which they currently don't have. We have a couple of other cases that are up right now. Rob Mancini here in Pennsylvania is pushing forward with a case with the EAC that Colonel Schindler is involved in, with a similar trajectory where they are allowing the use of uncertified code. And I'm gonna leave that to him next time. I'm going to give an update for Andy Thompson out in Nevada for people who are out in the Midwest and Nevada area. I don't, Andy's not on today. Andy got a favorable ruling from the Nevada Supreme Court, and they are going to move forward with discovery and hearings on the fact that the Attorney General of Nevada and other players out there destroyed and spoliated the evidence that was in the machines out there. So Andy's making progress in Nevada. We're making progress here in Pennsylvania. I know Harry Howery is coming on here in a little bit, and he'll give you an update on some of the things that he's working on. But I want to say at this point, there's a coalition of people, some of them you're seeing here, that are moving forward with litigation, moving forward with disclosures to the DOJ, disclosures to the Judiciary Committee in Congress. And I'm going to say there's a level of expertise here in moving the government and taking the proper actions to demand action. So I don't know how much time I have left, and I just want to encourage people. You can go to patriot.online and go to at Gregory Stenstrom. Patriot Online is our social media platform. There's some good articles there. One that has become very popular is the Who is Running America? The Department of Just Us, which discusses the council, or otherwise known as the SIGI, which is Charlie India, Golf, India Echo, SIGI. They have been defunded, and Colonel Schindler, who was on previously, myself, several others, Rob Mancini, and Christine Heitman, amongst others, are pressing forward with those cases and holding people accountable for obstruction of these investigations. So is there anything else you'd like me to cover, Raj? I know we're tight on time today, and how are we doing?
Yeah, we got time. We're time up, but we want to let everybody know that Greg is flying down to Florida for March 2nd to give us a live interview down at the Trump International event. So we'll talk a little bit more later, but we're running a little bit behind. So we're going to bring on Deb Monks from Florida. We try to get her live at there too, but she's busy. So she's working on election security legislation in Florida. So Deb, come on down.
Hi, thank you, Steve, and thank you for everybody else who's presented here today. It's just some amazing work being done. I just want to spend a few minutes and update you on where we stand in the legislative process for improving election security legislation in Florida. A couple of just a brief history of what worked and didn't work for us, and I wanted to share with you our latest tool in the toolbox that we're trying to use to see if that could be useful in your state. So just very briefly, I started this in 2022. This is my fourth cycle of working through the legislative process. In 2022, we focused on small amendments to bills that were already in process, basically focused on making sure only US citizens voted. And at that point, we quickly got the feedback, oh, that's not a problem here. We addressed that at the DMV. It's not a problem. Well, we convinced them it's not a problem, but getting things added to bills at the last minute proved to be a very frustrating experience, and we made virtually no progress in 2022. So in 2023, we took it upon ourselves to do a citizen-led security risk assessment and analyze the full process, and we went full out with big bills. I've got a great sponsor, to person who said they'd spearhead and carry the football, only to find that person backed out at the last minute. And we were kind of back to square one. So in 2024, we were smarter. We actually, lobbied earlier to more people. We got sponsors in both the House and the Senate. And I'm going to pull up a slide here that takes you forward from last year to this year. Okay, can you, let's see, can I share my screen? Okay.
Yes, you can share screen.
Okay. All right. So what happened last year? Well, last year we thought we did things right. We had 3 citizen-led election security bills that were filed, and they were 2 of them were filed in both chambers. That's one of the roadblocks you have to overcome. We were very hopeful, but it was killed in committee, not scheduled for hearing in committee. Concurrently, there was a lot I call the lobbyist-driven election security legislation that was filed. It was heard in committee. It was on a pathway to pass, but then it was dropped in part due to public pressure from our group and others from around the state on some poison pills that were in it. 2 specific poison pills were changing the definition of a voting system definition in a way that would decrease transparency, probably dramatically. And the second was to get rid of the manual hand count audit. And these were 2 things that were just intolerable from our viewpoint, and we were successful in stopping that from moving forward. Fast forward to this legislative session. When we went back to sponsors to get them to sponsor again, some of whom were very anxious last year to go at it again, we virtually got nowhere. And it was clear that legislators had been told to stand down. And to my surprise, they were not motivated by the desire to support President Trump's executive orders and directives. We repackaged our work so that it would align and highlight how we were supporting President Trump, and that got us nothing. We ended up with only 1 citizen-led election security bill, and that was on U.S. citizenship. That is the topic we have been most successful in getting farther in the process. But once again, we couldn't get a senator this time, and so our bill is not heard in committee. And it was clear we weren't going to go anywhere on our own, so we wrote a letter to the Secretary of State and state leadership in the legislature from multiple nationally recognized election security groups, including Defend Florida, including the Florida Republican Assembly, including Joe Hoft, including Unite for Freedom. And we listed all of our findings and provided all of our data in a simple, concise form and asked for a meeting. Absolutely 0 response. This was even made into an open letter published by Ann Vandersteel and Joe Hoft. Absolutely no response. And then lo and behold, here comes the lobbyist-driven legislation again, had the same 2 poison pills as it had the year prior. It did do more on make some positive steps on verifying citizenship, but I would call this a window dressing in that it takes us 1 step forward, but 2 steps back on citizenship verification. Won't go into details, but one example is in Florida, unlike other states, I believe, a lot of states, if you apply, if you go to the DMV and get a new state ID, by policy, not law, they are not offering you the opportunity to register to vote if they know you're not a U.S. citizen. This new bill actually goes ahead, lets them register the person to vote, but labels them as unverified. So it's actually making more non-citizens be on our voter roll, even though they're unverified and supposedly can't vote. So it's got some good elements in this bill, but some very poison pills, and it really needs to be strengthened to make the difference we want. And as importantly, it does not address any of President Trump's executive orders. One of the things we found was that the way a lot of our large counties operate, they use temporary staffing agencies, and there's no requirement for that temporary staff to be a U.S. citizen. And these are temporary staff that transport our ballots, that program our voting systems, run our voting systems. It's you know, like giving the keys to the kingdom to people we haven't qualified. So these are things that were very important to me, and I thought most people, but it did not get into the bill. So what's next? Well, our focus right now is to fix or kill the lobbyist-driven bill. If we can fix it, this would be a great thing, and we're trying to do that with every way possible. We also are working to magnify our voice with a strong alliance between election and security groups and also social media. We did this year already, and we're continuing to educate and gain support of the Republican Party of Florida Election and Integrity Committee members. And some of them were very helpful in trying to get sponsors for our bills. And we are trying to improve communications with the Florida Supervisors of Elections Association. The previous leadership there kind of shut us out, but the new leadership on the legislative committee we're in open dialogue, and I'm hoping we can have some positive outcome from that. And our new ask, okay, we started with, here's the legislation we want. Didn't go on. Then we went to say, here's the needs, the problems we're trying to solve. Go ahead and solve them with your own language and methods. No response. So now we're back to, please do an independent security risk assessment like we did, and you'll see for yourself where the problems exist, because it's a he said, she said. And right now, if a citizens group says this, but the Secretary of State says that, everybody's going to just take the Secretary of State's word for it. An example is vote by mail chain of custody. We obtained records from across the state. We analyzed the chain of custody docs and said, ooh, big problems here, there. Some counties did very good, but some counties, especially the larger ones, were very sloppy. But the Secretary of State goes and visits these locations and says, oh, they got a nice shiny vault. And they told me their practices and they're very good. But unless you actually look at the paper, like Jovan said, you don't know. You don't know. You can't go by a shiny safe or by somebody's word. They have to be looked at. So we're promoting this year the idea of including in law that we do at least one end-to-end security risk assessment of our election process. And the latest thing we've added is a governor and legislator candidate pledge. Change the game to get some candidates in there that will actually run our bills and support getting them passed. So I'm going to pull up the pledge we did put together for the governor. I had it right here. Okay, hold on. There it is. Okay. This pledge we put together with feedback from multiple groups. Florida Republican Assembly was a great part in writing this. Unite for Freedom members had looked at this, and I think it's a very good pledge. It's simple, to the point. And if anybody wants to get my vote for governor, they better sign this, because it's basic things. The first set of asks are for election security and accountability. Initiate this independent security risk assessment that I discussed earlier, to drive legislation to address the things they find in it, and to advocate for legislation to codify President Trump's executive orders and directives. And last but certainly not least, appoint a Secretary of State who maintains open and transparent communications with citizen election security groups to address identified issues. Then couple that with constitutional governments. We want a governor who's going to oppose any bill, amendment, or rule that infringes upon our Bill of Rights, violates our inherent rights to life, liberty, property, or reduces government transparency, accountability, or citizen oversight, that will support citizen-driven legislation to improve election security, health freedom, and parental rights, and maintain open and accessible communication with constituents. When I said on the title of my last slide, whatever happened to government buy-in for the people, I don't know if it ever existed, but it certainly doesn't exist in Florida right now. Has spun someone who spent years trying to make a difference. And
One minute.
okay, that's it. If you would like a copy of this, I'll put my email in the chat, and I'd be glad to send it to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Go ahead, Jovan. Go ahead.
Raj. All right, great. Thank you, Deb, for that announcement. So I want to add some things to the important stuff that Deb mentioned. A couple of things I want to encourage you with. Now, number one, there are 7 bills going through our super majority Republican legislation state of Florida, 7 bills Each of these 7 bills are attempting to obfuscate publicly available information. So to be clear, you've heard this from a lot of our colleagues in other states that have fallen victim to what I'm referring to. The only difference is in those states, these actions were not checked. These bills became laws, and now our colleagues in these other states are kind of screwed, just to be blunt. There are 7 bills in the state of Florida that are trying to do the same thing. They are trying to take information that's currently publicly available through a PRR or a FOIA, and they're trying to hide it from the public. No matter what your political party, persuasion, ethnicity, identity, whatever, that is always super bad. Anytime the government tries to hide information that's currently public, it's bad, bad, bad. So we need you to contact your legislators, inform yourself. If you're unaware of these bills or how to get them, you can email Deb Monk. She can send that information to you. You can go to defendflorida.org. So that's number 1. Number 2, I want to encourage you. There was a Republican Executive Committee, there's several, but I'm just going to use this one as an example in the state of Florida. And they, just like what I mentioned about obfuscating and hiding information, did not want all the gubernatorial candidates to come and speak to their people. They specifically did everything they can to block all candidates except one, the one candidate that they felt, whatever, just except one. But the people in that REC lobbied, worked weeks on weeks over time, and finally they were able to get enough support to overturn that decision. And now that REC, which is an example of many, is going to welcome all of the gubernatorial candidates. My friends, this is an alarming thing when the Republican Party is trying to curtail and censor information to its own people. Again, this has happened in other states. They're on the other side of it. They waited. They weren't able to stop in time. Florida, we've got an opportunity to stop this kind of thing. And the last thing I want to say to encourage you and underscore what you can actually make happen in this state if you take action, if you participate. The last thing I want to mention is this. The bill that Deb Monk just talked about is the Senate version and there's the House version. Just 8 days ago, it was looking very, very dismal. There were lots of poison pills in the Senate House version, the ones that Deb already talked about. But because of a few people working tirelessly, constantly, without giving up, being professional, being assertive, being clear, being to the point, 2 of those poison bills were removed from the Senate version. That happened 24 hours ago. So my friends, the interaction in Florida is still real, provided you step up. So we're looking for you to step up. We're looking for you to get involved. We're looking for you to take the information you heard here, share it with the people in your group. I know we got people from all over the state here, but for those of you in Florida, we are on the razor's edge. If we don't overturn this stuff, we are going to end up being like our colleagues in these other states where atrocious things are legally done and the people can no longer do anything because bills have become laws. So again, if you're not familiar with this, contact Deb Monk on her email. She'll fill you in. Go to defendflorida.org. Information is available there. Take action, 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 action. So with that, I'll turn it back to Steve Stern.
Okay, so Jovan will come on at the end. He's got to make an announcement. Keith, we're running about 10 minutes late. Can you wait? I know you're driving.
Let me unmute Keith. I got Keith Mark.
Mute John Bennett.
It may, honestly, Steve, if, hopefully I can go sooner than that, because I'm got to go through security at the airport.
Okay, 1 second. Let's ask John if he could delay it 10 minutes. John, can you delay it 10 minutes, John Bennett?
Sure.
Okay, so let's get Keith on. Keith, you want to come on? You'll just tell him who you are and everything and go from there. Go ahead.
Great. I'm Keith Mark. I'm the founder and current president of Hunter Nation. We're a grassroots organization that focuses on turning out conservative hunter and 2A advocate voters. The key word in the phrase is grassroots. I know there's a lot of you on this this stream that understand the concept of grassroots. There's a lot of messaging that goes around in conservative circles, and it doesn't resonate well in all corners. Being a hunting group, I like to use the example of if you go out to Montana to elk hunt and use a mallard duck call, you're going to have very little success. And this is what we found in the hunting space. There is roughly 16 million hunters. Historically, 50% or less of them vote. in any election cycle. And so when you're looking at a large number of conservative humans that don't vote, first you have to figure out why they're not voting. And then when you figure that out, then you have to move them to the polls. So in our group, we have put together the largest group of celebrity influencers. My board of directors includes Donald Trump Jr., Ted Nugent, Benghazi hero Mark Oz Geist, Craig Morgan, country singer, and on and on. It's a very robust but active board. We are a working board. I'm in DC right now. We're up here working on a couple pieces of legislation that is conservative. One is hunting related, one is not. But if you go back and you look at what we did in 2024, Steve, and I know you know this, but some of your listeners do not, we focused in 5 primary key states, the swing states, they say. We call them hunting states because in Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Georgia, and even Arizona, there's large swaths of hunters in those states, large swaths of conservative hunters in those states that don't participate in the election process. And so we identified them and then we modeled them. And the reason modeling is important because not all hunter is created alike. Our mission includes God, family, country, the Constitution. So we're very openly a conservative organization. So we do not spend any time, resources, or anything in messaging non-conservative hunters. We've developed our own modeling system, our conservative resonance score, CRS score. We only message hunters that are above a certain level. And so some of you are like going, well, it doesn't seem, well, in Wisconsin alone, 44% of hunters in Wisconsin vote on the blue side of the issues. So we don't message that 44%. And the percentage is different in all the different states. But so we message only the conservatives with our conservative influencers. And so my message to the group would be the most important thing in our world is 3, the way we do it: message, messenger, and medium. We make sure we deliver a message hunters in a way they can understand it. They're oftentimes not the most sophisticated voters. And so we have to make sure we're messaging them at a level they understand. We use a messenger they trust. Most of the time we use influencers that they see on TV, on the hunting networks, whether it's the Pursuit Channel, Sportsman's Channel, or Outdoor Channel, the likes of Jeff Foxworthy, and I've named others. And then the medium, if you're trying to reach my demographic. So we're hitting them where they're getting their content at the grassroots level. Hunters like to show up, so we're doing live events. We do town halls. We do teletown halls. We do virtual campfires. And it's been very, very successful. In 2024, just among our low and no propensity hunters, those are hunters that were registered to vote, but they had not voted in 16 years or 50% or less. We were more than the margin of presidential victory in Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Georgia. So if you're interested, go to hunternation.org, hunternation.org, and check us out. I think you'll like what you see. And Steve, really appreciate you giving us opportunity to come up here and talk about the importance of grassroots activism leading into this November.
Yeah, I'll give you a call. A couple of people want to get you on their show. So especially Joe Bond would like to have you on the show. Is that all right?
Yeah, perfect. Love to do it. Thank you for doing what you do, Steve. You're a patriot.
Talk tomorrow. Okay. Have a good flight back.
Take care.
You got it. So you guys all see what it takes. We got guys traveling by car, by bus, every place. So it takes a lot to do this, to get everybody on time and run on time. So we appreciate Mr. Bennett giving up his time a little bit, and we want to bring him on. He works with America Future with General Flynn. He's a retired U.S. Marine, former state rep, former state party chair over in Oklahoma. So he's one of my guys, counterintelligence agent, on and on and on. We go on for about 15 minutes. So we're lucky to have him on. Jan, you want to come down?
Yes, thanks, Steve. Thanks for having me on. I want to share my screen real quick here. I appreciate all that you do and everyone else that's on here as well, because as you all know, the only way we're going to win this is through a grassroots campaign. We have to actually take action. Otherwise, nothing nothing else is going to work. There is no cavalry coming from the federal government. So I'm going to be quick with my time. That way I don't get booted off. Steve, I hope you guys can see that. But basically, as he said, with America's Future, and what we do is we are pretty much a grassroots movement as well. We train folks at the local level, citizens, law enforcement, politicians, pastors, and churches on how to actually take action on what we're seeing today. Now, I probably have a little bit of a different take that most of you guys are used to, but I'm going to go ahead and lay this out for you from our perspective, from who we are. So General Flynn says all the time that local action has a national impact. We just got to get in the fight and start fighting. So basically what we're seeing today, and you probably have been seeing it on the TV recently, is a color revolution. Historically, by its definition, however, the difference is, even though it's still a domestic issue and it has a lot of domestic and external influence, even from other nations, it's using a violent movement. It started with a non-violent, moving into a violent movement to basically move the needle in the direction they want to go. To them, the issue is never about the issue. It's always about the revolution. And that's what we're seeing today. So in a nutshell, this is pretty much what we're seeing. We have a color revolution that's supported and supercharged by a Islamic movement that's been here in the United States for 60 plus years, coupled with a communist Marxist movement that's been here for 100 plus years. And they're supported by their collaborators and financiers, including the news media, politicians from both sides of the aisle, and others as well. And these two organizations, the Islamic and the communist Marxist movements, are working together seamlessly from the ground level to the international level, even though they're ideologically opposed in most of their beliefs. But they do have one common belief or goal, and that is, in fact, to destroy this God-blessed constitutional republic and replace it with a totalitarian form of government, whether it be communism and Marxism or Sharia law. So how do we know this? Well, this is not what we're making up. This is the things that they tell us. We know this because it's in all their doctrine. It's all in all their written material. We have material from the House on Un-American Activities Committee. They tell us publicly and openly. Bella Dodd, who was a very high-level communist agent, she give her life to Christ. And once she did that, she spilled the beans on what the communists and Marxists were doing and how they were trying to subvert and destroy the United States from the inside out. So they're very obvious about what they're doing. And even today, they march the streets holding flags, Democrat Socialists of America, Socialists of America, the communist revolutionaries. I mean, they're everywhere, and they tell us exactly what they want. And it's really not that hard to figure out once you understand that they have a movement that has doctrine, strategy, and written plans to operationalize that doctrine. And not only that, they have literally thousands upon thousands of communist Marxist organizations freely working inside the United States today to move that revolution forward. Now, the Islamic movement is no different, and they pretty much complement each other. We know about the Islamic movement because they tell us as well. It's in all their doctrine. They say it when they get caught committing jihad against the Republic and people within the Republic here in the United States. They tell us. Not to mention, in the largest terrorism financing trial in United States history, the Holy Land Foundation trial, which took place between 2004 and 2008 in Dallas, Texas, of all places, we had a treasure trove of documents of what they told us. And basically, they said, we're not here to assimilate, but to dominate and oppose Sharia law to replace the U.S. Constitution. They've done it in Europe. They're doing it here. They've been very successful in Europe. Europe is on their knees right now with a knife to their throat. They're almost completely done. And we typically follow Europe. Normally, it's about a 5 to 7 year gap. I don't think we have that long. They are very serious about what they're doing, and they have been doing it for decades here in the United States. And now both of these entities are working together and has supercharged the movement. So this is evidence that was submitted into the Holy Land Foundation trial. And this is what they said their goal is here in America, the Muslim Brotherhood, which is primarily led by the Palestinian Muslim Brotherhood. They pretty much have turned it over to the Turkish Muslim Brotherhood. And they said this: the process of settlement is a civilization jihadist process, with all the word means. The Ikhwan, the Muslim Brothers, must understand that their work in America is kind of a grand jihad in eliminating and destroying the Western civilization from within and sabotaging its miserable house by their hands. That's all non-Muslims and primarily the communists and Marxists in the hands of the believers, so that it is eliminated and God's religion is made victorious over all other religions. And they're talking about Sharia law. So just like the communists and Marxists, the Islamic movement, they've got doctrine, strategy, and written plans to operationalize that doctrine as well. And they've been doing it with impunity for many, many decades. And this is pretty much the pillars of society that they have inserted themselves into, because to them, they pretty much both movements off mouths political warfare. It's total warfare in many, many lines of effort and operation. But what we have found over the years is they're primarily working and operating in these very successfully in these pillars in our communities, including the elected cycle, which is very important to you all that are fighting for free and fair and legal elections. And if they don't get their way, both organizations use lawfare to get what they want. So what's their common goal that they share? Well, to chip away at the foundation of this nation. The laws, what is the very foundation of our laws and government here in the United States and who we are? And that is simply the laws of nature and nature's God, which is what this country is built upon, which we see in our founding documents, which was legally defined by Blackstone's commentaries, which we use for law books in America for over 150 years at our founding. It legally defines the laws of nature. Nature's God is God's word and God's will, according to Holy Scripture and the Holy Spirit. Because if they chip that away, the entire republic falls, and they can replace it with some sort of totalitarian form of government, whether that be communism or Marxism, which we know doesn't work. It's been responsible for killing millions and millions over history, or replace it with Sharia, which we are allowing them to have First Amendment rights here when we should not, because Sharia clearly violates the First, Fifth, Eighth, and 14th Amendments. And freedom of religion stops or harm, coercion, criminal actions, and enforcement begins. But yet here they are freely using it to subvert us from the inside out. So when they say this is a total war, that's exactly what they mean. When the communists and Marxists said they're going to subvert us, that's what they meant and have been doing. The jihadis are the same, a civilization jihadist process. And really the main way that they do it or have been doing it so far, because the civilization jihadist process and the subversion, all the nonviolent side of that always sets the platform for the violence. They have been doing it through the ballot box. They've been electing their people at the school board level, city council level, county government level, state level, and federal level. And they've been changing laws right underneath our nose, which they're allowed to do. However, there's a difference between legal and lawful, and they've been legally changing some laws and using them against us. So our organization, we go around the country and we train teams. We build teams at the local level, give them a detailed action plan where they can legally, lawfully, but very creatively go after these organizations, both organizations, and delay, disrupt, and dismantle them and boot them out of their communities and fortify it so they can't come back. And then they grow out to the other communities that surround them as the other communities are being built and come towards them. So we can take back this God bless constitutional republic and get back where we need to be as the freest nation on the planet. So this is our organization. This is our website, or you can scan that QR code. So I think in the the quickest, most general way I could lay it all out, there you go. And I do have one thing for you, Steve, because you did ask for this. Just so you all know, the mosques are the primary places that they plan and do all the things that they've been doing that are nefarious. And in the state of Texas, these are the mosque locations. Now, I want you to know these mosques, if you look where they are, they're around the major populated areas. So they are literally, because other non-Muslims will not go to the polls and vote like they should. we're losing seats, not only in Texas, but other states as well. And these mosques and these coordinated efforts are all around the larger city areas because that is where all the votes are. And this is just in a small radius around the DFW area alone. And this is why Dallas, Houston, and other large cities in Texas are almost completely fallen to the communist and the jihadis movement that are in those areas today. And they have already expanded out into other states as well. So with that, Steve, I will turn it back over to you.
That map back on again, because, you know, many people did not know this is happening. And when I heard your presentation, when I heard it, where I heard it, you said that you're training people. I know you give up your weekends every weekend pretty much. Tell us what you're doing. This is very important. What are you doing to train people? Because in Florida, which is supposed to be a great state, just in real where I am, maybe 10 miles away, they had a big event for them this past weekend, and they couldn't stop it. And this is, you know, if it happens in Florida, it can happen in every state. So explain exactly the training. I know you're booked up for months, but you need funding to be able to get more people trained, because I don't think the people in the United States really understand what's happening.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a small team. We have many allies across the country, but we're a small team. And we literally have been going every weekend for the past, year. So many people are calling us wanting training because the training we're giving them is effective. So for the citizens, it's a one-day training. We spend the first half of the day. We go in and train them on the threats they're actually seeing, who the enemy is. It's basic U.S. warfighting doctrine. You can't defeat the enemy until you know who they say they are, how they operate, and why they operate. Then and only then can you form a counteraction plan. So the first half of the day, we do that. Second half of the day, we literally pull them together as one team. They pick their own leaders. And then before we go into that area, we do a deep dive investigation and research, and we put together a detailed action plan for them in 3 easy phases and 10 steps. And we give them that detailed action plan, and then they take their team and then they go action that action plan, which is legal, lawful, but very creative. And in addition, we also train them on secure communications, so no one is alerted to what they're actually doing. So that's the one-day citizen action training. We do the same type of training with pastors and churches, except we go from a biblical worldview, what the role of the church and the pastor is, and what they can do within their sphere of influence. And then we have a law enforcement training, which is separate. It's a 3-day law enforcement training for them specifically. And then we train elected officials from the local level to the federal level as well. And we have model legislation, many bills that we put together and resolutions that we've been passing around the country as well. And you probably have seen some of them start to pop up in the different states, and even on the federal level. That was part of our consulting and training that we've given to these elected officials.
John, that's great. I'm getting a lot of texts from different podcasters asking if you can come on some of the programs. So I will get back with you later in the week. I think this is very important to get out to the United States, because a month ago, people weren't even talking about this. And now everybody's talking about it. Probably what happened in New York started all this going on. And we appreciate everything you're doing. You are the grassroots guy. You did what I did. The head of the Republican Party in Oklahoma, very important. So you've done every job, Marines, on the ground. I mean, there's probably so many things you've done is unbelievable. Thank you for everything you've done. And we're going to bring our next guest on. I just want to let everybody know that we have a good friend of mine, Dan Sferiglio, who is the voice of the people, gets tons of people on this. Anybody who wants to go on his network or get on his network, I'll be able to really introduce you to him. He's starting a big network. He goes into 58 different countries by radio and other avenues. So thank you, Dan, for everything you're doing. And we appreciate it very much. We want to thank Steve Bannon for putting us on today on Getter and on the War Room. We have a lot of people helping us, OBBM Network, Lindell TV, all the way across through hundreds of podcasters. Every month we get new podcasters. We lose a few now and then because some of the podcasters, retire, or they're doing this for fun. And then all of a sudden they realize that it's costing them money. So it's a problem. So if you know any podcasters that want to stream it, We want to also thank General Flynn for his help. He's given me many podcasts, so we appreciate that. So let's bring our next guest on, Harry Horry, who also is flying down to Trump International March the 2nd to do a talk live where we'll have about 15 to 20 election security people coming in live. And it'll be from 10 o'clock a.m. Eastern time to about 1 o'clock Eastern time on March the 2nd, Monday. So Harry, come on down.
Hi, Steve. Can you hear me?
I can.
Good.
You sound just
Thank-
like you.
Thanks for having me on again. So, as you know, I'm the founder of United Sovereign Americans, now Unite for Freedom. That's Unite, the number 4freedom.com. Before that, in 2020, I was part of a group called Cyber Patriots, and Jovan might remember coming in to get some help from Nate Kane, and I was in the background. Nate and I are business partners. So anyway, we've been at this fight, or I've been at this fight since 2020, and in one vein or another. And we basically have followed a pattern that I'm familiar with, which is try to disassemble the terrorist network that's trying to fight to destroy our country. And they are terrorists. We already know that because they are more than willing to use violence against conservatives, as we saw clearly in 2020 with the mobilization of Antifa and Black Lives Matter. It doesn't matter what the excuse is, and this is something I want to talk about, briefly here, is that, first of all, I honor everything that everybody's saying here today. The fact of the matter is we all have a place to play, but sometimes what's missed in this discussion is that this is an all of society battle that we're in, all of society. The fact that our government doesn't respond to us anymore, the fact that our school boards don't respond to us anymore, the fact that they don't want to teach capitalism and the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence in school, the fact that they've eliminated civics from the coursework of high school students. A lot of students, including my children, don't even know what from school. They know from home, but they don't know from school what our Constitution says and what our Declaration of Independence says, and the principles, the logical and philosophical principles upon which we were founded. The second piece that everybody needs to know, we need to expand our horizon when we talk about election integrity. We are the wall that protects the country. What is that wall? Our ability to elect our own representatives. So when you suddenly find yourself with the DNC and the RNC and senators and corruption in places, people stepping back from commitments that they've made publicly while they're running for election, when you see people acting in a non-responsive way, it's because our elections are broken. It's not just the machines. It's not just the injection of ballots. It's not just the voter registration rolls. It's not just the destruction of auditability. It's all of those things, but most importantly, we have a non-responsive elected community, which are importing, if you will, designating, appointing representatives of them, the bureaucracy, that march to a different set of orders than what the electorate would have them do. The perfect example is the open insurrection amongst the bureaucracy planning in 2018 through 2020 to obstruct President Trump's initiatives in government. We have recordings, we've all seen them. But how is it that we have a bureaucracy that's totally penetrated? It's because it's an all of society war. We either defend our society and our culture and our view, or we don't. They convince us that it's openness and sensitivity and whatnot if we let people start talking about Sharia law. I'm not against Muslims or Islam. I'm not against Jews. I'm not against agnostics and atheists. I'm a Christian. But the fact of the matter is, our system, the fairness of our system, the ethics of our system, the morality of our system is under attack. It's under attack in our courts. It's under attack in the House of Representatives. It's under attack in the Senate. It's under attack even in the current administration with the holdovers that haven't been vetted in a way because no one can see it all, right? So unless you can surround yourself with a large enough cadre, I regret using that word, but a large enough group supporting you, it's very hard to stop the enemy that's already inside your gates. So when you look at our representatives and they tell you they're going to do something and they don't, and they use some flimsy excuse as to why they didn't do that, hold them responsible. It's all about accountability. Now let's turn quickly to election integrity. Unite for Freedom has concentrated now for almost 4 years on identifying evidence within state published data. The reason we did this is because A, it's not our data. No one can impugn us with regard to whether or not it's, legitimate data to be looking at. The second thing is that you can't make it personal. It's not about Harry Howery. It's not about Ken Zitko. It's not about, all of our people or, our analysts in Texas or our analysts in Georgia. It's about all of us. We have 94 volunteer data analysts that do nothing except look at the voter rolls, the voter history, and find artifacts. We're not looking at the question of whether voter history or voter registration is being done legitimately or legally. We're looking at whether or not there's indications of manipulation of the vote. And what I want to talk about just briefly here is the fact that we found that manipulation. We published something called the Phantom Voter Reports recently. It caused a lot of stir. Joe Hoff's coming on in a little while, I hope. And the fact of the matter is that we don't have any evidence that our voter rolls are accurate anywhere. We can find, all of us can find anecdotal evidence, but what we've done is statistical and end-to-end studies of voter histories, of voter rolls, and we find people that are unverifiable. We know in these states nobody's doing the verification, yet the Constitution says that you have to be an eligible U.S. citizen to vote, period. Doesn't say any exception. The state officials are responsible for administering the law, yet we allow the states, like California, to pass legislation that makes it illegal for election workers to ask for identification. Did you know that in the guidance for prosecution of election offenses, one of the definitions of election fraud is handing someone a ballot that you don't know. If you don't know who that person is, it's election fraud. We have millions and millions of cases of election fraud. These are direct HAVA violations. The fact that we don't know who the people are that are voting. We don't even know who the people are that were registered. We don't know whether the ballot came from their hands and got counted. We don't know if the counting process is accurate. We have no idea. It's the machines, it's the voter registrations, it's the injection of ballots, it's the ballot harvesting, it's all of these things. So don't foreclose other people's part of the equation when you talk about it. We have to solve the whole problem. The only way we restore our democratically inspired republic, our constitutional republic, is by fighting. President Trump had that exactly correct. We have to fight the unresponsive bureaucracy. We have to fight the unresponsive elected officials. And we have to fight to get through the mainstream media that continues to tell everybody that election fraud is in fact a fraud. In fact, the statement, the election deniers, the actual election deniers are the mainstream media. They are the people that are trying to destroy our republic. You want to find our worst enemies? Find everybody that calls us, the people on this program collectively, they call us election deniers. They are the deniers. We know in 2020 that the machines are not certified. I enter Supreme Court testimony about the certification for the Amistad Project. Our courts don't even listen to the evidence. They throw it away. We filed, 9 lawsuits in federal court. Not one of them was heard on the merits. They throw all sorts of procedural obstructions up. Not that they were all perfect lawsuits. There are a lot of imperfect lawsuits, but the fact of the matter is that none of this evidence is getting heard. None of it's getting adjudicated. Greg Stenstrom, my friend, talked about this earlier. He's got court cases that are 5 years old. 5 years. No hearing on the evidence yet. Still procedural. And then, like we heard earlier about Tina Peters' case, how can any competent court allow Tina Peters on appeal to sit in jail, particularly when they've proven that she's at risk? She's been attacked violently multiple times. This is the problem. Our courts have to be reformed. Our government has to be responsive, and you all and we all and our children have to inherit a constitutional republic that actually elects their own representatives. This goes way beyond just the election system. We have to fix it all. And that includes closed borders. It includes child and human trafficking. It includes many malicious acts all over the country. People throwing murderers back out on the street. When things are in a chaotic step of destruction, you see people doing stuff that has no logical explanation. These people are part of the problem. They are part of the attack on the vision of what we are as a country, the vision of a place of freedom, the vision of a place of honor, and we are allowing them to destroy us. The thing that we're not doing well is we're not combining our efforts well. We have to start talking with a single voice. We have to know who the voters are. We have to know that the voters actually filled out the ballots that are being counted. We have to know that all of the ballots that they filled out and only the ballots that they filled out are counted. We have to know that they're counted accurately. And oh, by the way, Deborah Monks and Joe Hawk, we have to be able to audit the whole daggone system from beginning to end. People say, well, we're going to expose things. You know, the batch tickets are only a leisurely or convenience item for control. No, it's not. Those procedures that say there's supposed to be a batch ticket and it's supposed to agree with the ballots, that's the law.
1 minute.
Hobbes says these procedures are the law. So what we're advocating, you can find us at unite4freedom.com. You can hear more about Georgia tonight at we have an X or spaces on X at Real Booker Scott on X. If you want to hear more about Georgia and what's happening, Unite for Freedom is also trying to work with the DOJ extensively, trying to get the evidence we have, which is clear evidence collected using evidentiary procedures of the types of things that are happening. And oh, by the way, there is evidence, clear evidence provided by me and others of international manipulation of a voting system. Clear evidence.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Steve.
I'd like to mention a person that's very important out of the ordinary here. We have a candidate in my hometown of Weston that's running against Debbie Wasserman Schultz. His name is Michael Carbonaro. He's going to be spending $2 million and maybe more. He's already spent $500,000 in defeating Debbie Wasserman Schultz. We need candidates like that. He's endorsing and supporting our election security call and our Trump International event on March the 2nd. I don't know if everybody can see that. We've invited President Trump. Who knows if he'll come, but if he's there on Monday, he plays a little golf, he may play with us. So Michael Carbonaro has done a lot for us here, and we're throwing a big support behind him. The next person that we're going to have on is very important. I'll be on a Zoom meeting with him tomorrow. We have started something. I work with Dan Schultz on precinct strategy for 4 years. He has www.precinctstrategy.com. Our new website is called Precinct Project USA. And I'll let Andy Meehan from Bucks County come down and talk about it. Go ahead, Andy.
All right. Thanks a lot, Steve. And great to be here with all these fine patriots. Agree 100% on what Harry is saying. So I'm going to cut right to the chase. The real important thing that we need right now is we need the big voices out there getting the word out to people. about what people can actually do. So we can all write strongly worded letters to our elected officials who are unresponsive to us. But if they don't fear us and they don't fear being knocked out in their own primary elections, strongly worded letters don't go anywhere. They go in the trash can. And if you're not feared and don't have raw political power, which is basically the ability to vote them out in primaries, then you go nowhere. In our two-party system, when you have the two parties who are both compromised by bribery and blackmail, okay, how are you going to get these people out? Well, the mechanism by which you do that is at the county level, where the endorsements are made for the state committees and for the Congress people and for the commissioners and the state reps that make the laws. In Pennsylvania, for example, the Republican Party put Act 77 on the desk of Democrat Governor Wolf back in 2019, the most, shall we say, liberal, abusive, unsecure election system, Act 77, 50 days unrestricted mail-in voting. And we've got these godforsaken machines here. How are you going to get rid of them? You're going to write strongly worded letters to the commissioners. Even the Republican commissioners don't have the courage or the stomach or the brains to go after it. So what are we going to do? We need to take back the Republican Party. We need to have an opposition party. Are we going to go out and start a third party? A lot of people talking about that. That's a real heavy lift. You're talking 10 years of hard work and billions of dollars. It's a lot easier to fill the empty committee seats that we have all across the country. Over 50% of the local Republican committee seats are empty across the country. And what does that do? That allows the rhinos, the corporatists, and the grifters who are running these county committees to make the endorsements in the primaries and to stick those names of these candidates that they engineer these endorsements for on their sample ballot so they can hand that out to all the unsuspecting voters as the legitimate candidates, the best endorsed candidates by the party to vote for. This is a very strong business model, very hard to break. And unless you're able to break into that and stop these endorsements in primaries for these rhinos and run candidates that are going to follow the Constitution, that have the courage and the stomach and the wherewithal to get into office and make changes and then get back and go back to their businesses and their lives, which is what they're supposed to be doing. We're just screaming at the television screen. We're just banging on our keyboards. That is not going to work. What are you going to do? We need to get back to grassroots civics 101, and that's getting people involved at the local level to take over these Republican county committees. So that's what we're focused on here in Bucks County with the Right for Bucks group. We've had great success, and we're looking forward to a county reorganization meeting in June. Pennsylvania has 67 counties in it. They all have different bylaws. They're supposed to be consistent with the bylaws of the state committee. They're not. And they're rigged, and they concentrate all the power into a chair up in the county chair seat in Doylestown with a person that can basically appoint all of the executive committee who makes the endorsements. And those endorsements go on that little sample ballot that gets handed out all over the county, and the unsuspecting primary voters just go ahead and vote for it. And now they've gotten to a point where they've got Scott Pressler running around getting everybody to sign in for mail-in ballots. So if you've got 25% of the Republican voters who don't even show up to the polls to run into Andy Meehan or Liz Deal or Patrick Wynn or any of the other precinct committee people out there on this call that I see, then they're just going to take that text message that they get or that happy, very colorful thing that they get in the mail from the Republican committees saying, vote for your endorsed Republican candidates. You didn't even have to show up at the polls. Here is your committees, mail in your vote for these people. So they've gotten a stranglehold on this primary process and the mail-in votes, and they're using primary endorsements and mail-in ballots to box out conservative candidates. The only way to stop this is to take over your county committee. So you need to get out there and get organized with people, implement tools and resources and systems that allow you to keep track of people, email them, have a website, Have a place where you can post, instructions and tools. Have Zoom meetings on Sunday nights. Get out there and print walk lists of the Republicans in neighborhoods where you don't have any committee people. Look over those lists. Look for names that you know. Have personal conversations with people. Explain to them how important this precinct committee seat really is. There's a great piece on the Eagle Forum website called "The Most Important Position in the World." And it's not the president's office, it's the precinct committee seat. And the problem is that half of them are empty, and patriots have allowed the grifters and the corporatists to overtake the Republican Party and to be endorsing people that are just going to go along with them and that they can send money to and buy their votes, and they're not following the Constitution. So the only way to fight the uniparty is to take back the one side of that equation, and that's the Republican Party. That's our best shot at taking this country back. So that's my rant for the day, Steve. If you have any questions on that, and I'm glad to be working with you and others on putting together this toolkit for people that want to learn how to do the precinct strategy. Dan has a lot of great resources on his website. We're supplementing that with some more kind of, hands-on and local efforts, because what happens in Pennsylvania is different than what happens in Ohio or Illinois and other places. And you need to plug in with people on the ground in those places who understand what's going on and can help you to develop those tools and share their best practices with them. So I'll leave it at that.
Thanks very much, Andy. Joe Hop, come on down and unmute yourself. Or Raj, can you unmute him? Okay.
Yeah, I'm fine.
Go ahead, Joe.
Hey, Steve. Thanks for having me. Raj, thanks. It's great seeing everybody. It's actually, I've really enjoyed all the shares, really kind of blown away. And here we are now, 5 years since the 2020 election, and we're still running with this thing and still as committed as ever. And I think most of us would agree this is probably the most important thing that we do and that we can do for this country right now is to save our elections. So a lot going on with myself personally, and I wanted to share some things today. Again, Steve, thanks for having me. One thing I was going to mention, listening to that last speaker, and it's really hit me recently that how great the American people is and are. And we're putting together a video. It's a documentary. It's on January 6ers, specifically 5 of the Proud Boys that were involved in January 6th. And they got the harshest sentence of anybody. One of them, Enrique Tarrio, got 22 years and he wasn't even there. And when we sat down and talked to him, we've got some great interviews from some others in the documentary that we're putting together. Now we're going to align it with the book. That's myself, Jim at the Gateway Pundit, and a few others. What hit me was these guys, like Enrique tells the story how he's sitting there after being in years in solitaire, being shipped around the country to various jails, and they say, okay, here's the deal, buddy. And he wasn't, by the way, he wasn't even there on January 6th. And so they asked this lady, her name's Valentine, I believe that's her name. She's still with the DOJ. Now she's overseeing the pipe bomber case. So that kind of tells you what sort of what's going on there. She passes this thing across the table to him, says, well, if you sign this, we'll let you go. And basically it said that he would sign that he was working with President Trump to overthrow the government. And he refused to do that, as well as some others. And then he gets 22 years. And that's what he was facing, not knowing whether Trump was going to win the election or what was going to happen. He had the integrity to say no, as well as these other guys. And I just think that's who America is. It's not these monsters out there getting paid to hurt cops, beat up cops, and do the stuff that they're doing in Minnesota and places. Real Americans are like you and me and these people that have integrity. And that's our culture, and that's what they want to destroy. But that's us. Anyways, that'll be coming out here. Don't know when yet, but we're working on it, and it's going to be excellent. So keep your eyes open for that. This past weekend, I was blessed to go overseas and share a bit about the United States and our election process. And I've come out with a new book. I consolidated my 3 books from 2020. This thing's as relevant today as it was when I wrote these first books. I wrote my first book. President Trump sent me a note in the mail saying, "Thank you so much, Joe, for doing this," and said, "Keep it up. I can't wait to see your other other books. And so now I've got all three consolidated there. And over in Rome this past weekend, I had the opportunity to speak. And one of the guys who was there, who was putting on this event, had helped me translate my books into Italian. So if anybody out there is Italian and wants to get a hold of my books and learn what happened in the 2020 election, here it is. And it's available. You can go to joehoff.com at El Futuro. So anyways, that was exciting. And people around the world want to know what's going on with this country, et cetera. So the two main things that I wanted to point out today really is the election and how it's still a top item, and we've got to fix this stuff. We all know. I think we all are still kind of believing that Trump's going to do something. He's going to put together another executive order or whatnot. I think the other thing that we all are really concerned about is accountability. I was talking to Steve about that earlier today. That's the two things. We fix those things, and I think we'll be really feeling great. I think Trump's done incredible work, tremendous work, miraculous work, but we've got some work to do. So I'm going to mention a couple pieces here. Maybe I'll share my screen. I don't know if you can see that. This is an article I put up before, and I put it up again this morning. Can you see it?
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay. So this is an idea that I had. You know, we've got all these ideas on what we need to do to fix the election. Well, we do, and they're all right. You know, a lot of the times we argue over some of the stuff. Well, I think, yeah, you're right. There was this great story I heard years ago. Two guys are having an argument. They go to this wise man in their village and ask him, you know, who's right. He listens to both sides and he says, well, I don't know. You both sound right. So they go up to the top of the hill to the wise old man up there. He listens to both of them. And to the first one, he says, you're right. To the second one, he says, you're right. To the guy, the third guy that's there says, well, they can't both be right. And he goes, you're right. And the moral of the story is we're all doing great work. Let's not beat each other up. There's incredible stuff that's happening. Loved hearing Harry Hari. Loved hearing all of you guys. Guy from North Carolina right before me. We're doing everything right. But what happens when we get all this stuff done and put in place? We really only have really months to go. My suggestion is one thing we have to do is do something similar to what we do in the corporate world, which is create some sort of process and control atmosphere and even regulation that ensures that our elections are working as intended before the election. And so this piece I put up at joehoff.com. It's up at Gateway Pundit this morning as well. And I won't go through it all here, but to me, I worked in the corporate world for decades. I was an executive overseas. I've overseen finance and auditing functions around the world. And that's what we do in the US to make sure everything's proper. And that's why I was appalled when I looked at this election and applied those same principles and looked at 2020 and every area that I looked at. I thought this is not certifiable. This is not certifiable and such. So our elections are broke right now. We've got to get something right. Harry Hari just listed a bunch of stuff. We did some work together in Orange County, 5th largest county in America. 20% of the people that voted in that county in 2024 were not legit. This is the reality. And so when we have idiots with purple hair in the House of Representatives, that person I don't believe is winning those elections. She's being appointed and by these monsters that just want to make fun of us with stupid candidates like that. So anyways, that's one piece that I wanted to share with you today. Another piece then, moving on to the accountability piece is something that I put up yesterday about what's going on with Ed Martin. We had Martin.
You had that up and then it went down.
Oh, I did? Okay, let me see.
That's very important. We have a lot of people call me on that today.
Okay, great. Yeah, here it is. I put it up. I was just like, you know, they've fired the wrong guy. There's one guy that's doing something. We all know it. It's Ed Martin. He's been doing great work. They won't pass him in D.C. He won't go through the Senate, this corrupt Senate of ours, including Republicans. So then Trump puts him in this role, and now we find out that the guy's been he's been fired. And it's like, what's going on here? This is the guy that we should be pushing and saluting, and he should have a higher role. That's Ed Martin. There's rumors that Todd Blanche and the DOJ has removed him. A lot of rumors on that. It's happened. You know, I'm starting to believe maybe that's true. I've heard a lot of stuff about Todd Blanche. We put this up before too. There's 5 guys that are running the FBI offices around the country they all worked with Jack Smith. One of those guys has been removed. And to me, this is the thing. And I've talked to an HR guy years ago, and he said when a CEO starts at a new company, what he does, the first person he hires is his HR person that he knows and trusts that came from the company he was with before, because you've got to get the right people. And I'd say that our DOJ has failed at that first step. They haven't knocked out the people that should be out of there. They haven't brought in the right people to get the job done. So we could go on and on about that, but that was one piece I wanted to share. And then a third piece here is just something that Kelly Walker shared with me yesterday. Some of you guys may know him, and it's again on Todd Blanche. Kelly is one of these parents that got abused by the Biden regime under Merrick Garland. So many of these parents did. They're fighting to try to get some justice. This, and Kelly lost his entire business. He went through hell and still is. Been fighting for the families, and he goes in to talk to these guys last week, and it turns out that basically they're not doing anything for him. The word is that they're going to shove everything aside. I just maybe saw a James O'Keefe piece yesterday talking to some FBI guy undercover. The guy says, "Oh yeah, none of this stuff in Minnesota is nobody's ever going to do anything here. It's all just going to be whatever." Well, anyways, Emerald Robinson put this little clip up, and this came from Kelly. And it's this guy by the name of Vance Day, who works for Blanche, talking to Kelly and saying that Todd Blanche just refers to parents targeted by Biden as terrorists. So we've still got the same people in the DOJ that, hate Americans, hate patriots, and we've got to get rid of them. We got to put more pressure on our government to get the right people in there from top to bottom. I don't like, though, just saying it's a failure because of this, because Trump's done incredible work. The economy, all this stuff he's doing, foreign relations is incredible. I tell you, I'm in Italy. People love Trump, and it's certainly better than Obama and Hillary, who are connected to George Soros. I loved what Harry Hari said too. Terrorists are running this country right now, and we've got to fight for this thing. We got to take it back. Steve, what you're doing here is the right thing. You're just doing the right thing to keep us on track and to help us save America. Done a great job the last few years with this. So I'll pause there, Steve, but thanks for having me again. Appreciate it.
Our next person up is Orleen Cole from Eagle Forum. She's our last speaker, and then we'll hear from Jovan for a few minutes to round it off. Can you come on, Orleen?
Stand by, trying to get her.
I think she's problem with.
Okay, great, Orleen. See if you can unmute, Orleen. On the bottom left-hand side of your screen, Orleen, click on the unmute button. Click on the unmute button on the bottom side of the screen. All right, while we're waiting, wait, did we get her? No.
Come on and give him about 5 minutes. He's got a couple of things he wants to finish off with.
Copy that. Okay, so Orleen is unable to unmute just now. If you want to send me your number, Steve, I'll contact her, and then you want to get Jovan going in the meantime?
Yep.
Okay, Jovan, go ahead, Jovan, if you're good to go.
Okay, I'm back. Thanks, folks. Look, a good question was brought up in chat. Might not have been the most efficient, accurate way to ask it or even suggest it. But it was basically like, where'd this Gibson go? Jovan has no connection to preserving anything. Does this go into his pocket? I'd like to cover that. One thing I want you to know, folks, while we were on this call, California was allowed by the Supreme State to redraw their districts. Now California will get 5 more House seats. That just happened. You have to understand this is an ongoing war. But let's talk about Maricopa. I am different than most people that talk about election integrity. My work comes under a contract with the Senate. I'm not advocational at this. I'm not an advocational auditor. I am a professional technologist that happens to do forensics, digital forensics. It's a big part of my career. It's a large part of my patent portfolio. And that's why my team was tapped to do the digital forensics in Arizona. Now, as part of that, we generated massive petabytes of data. Let me explain the difference between what a state is subject to and what someone like me is subject to. Number one, you must understand that all of the rules regarding the machines are voluntary. It's the VVSG, Voluntary Voting System Guidelines. At most, you're going to get is $1,000 misdemeanor. That is not the work I do. It's important, but it's not the work I do. I work on the other side, which basically means what happened in the audit that will tell the story. So there's no theory involved. It's just like I showed you earlier, what happens. Now that becomes an evidence file. In any of this, it is important to be able to connect the evidence exactly to the ballot, and to be able to connect it to the physical ballot, you have to understand what batch, what box, what pallet it is. That all regards chain of custody. Now, the reason the states destroy their evidence within 22 to 24 months is because it's wildly expensive to maintain that evidence. As an auditor, I am required, you can look it up yourself, it's called the GAGAS, right? It's the yellow book if you want the short. It requires us to keep our findings detailed in perfect chain of custody, okay, between 7 to 10 years past our last report. We are still in audit mode for what we do. We intentionally did that because we were the only professional auditors to stay in audit. Everybody else cycled out. The system wants this evidence to go away, but it is the ballots that prove the abuse and gets the racketeering and convictions. And so just a few of these so you understand how the law reads and what we're subject to under the GAGAS, which somebody asked about. These have to be kept longer than standard because there is litigation or anticipated litigation. Then there is an active criminal investigation. As you know, our work applies to many of those. It is something that has to do with ongoing additional public records request. It was all gathered by subpoena, which changes the entire format. And it is part of still an unresolved dispute that has to do with potentially fraud, maladministration, and malfeasance. And so when it comes to somebody like our organization, this is all we do. We will do no other audits. It's one thing, the single largest audit in American history that actually touched the ballots, Maricopa. Remember, the Hanging Chad stuff in Florida was only about 60,000 ballots, folks. We're talking in excess of 2 million. There are about 40 proof files that go with each of those 2 million. So we have to keep these in custody. If you want to know the actual facts, we got a contract for $210,000 to do what we do. And for that, I was going to do about 4 or 5 things. We ended up developing 25 different independent new forensic techniques to audit ballots. In order to do that, we spent on our side $3.5 million. Now, I know some people say all of this is a grift, but I got to tell you, I'm the shittiest grifter in the world. If you get a contract for 210 and you spend $3.5 million to do it. And so we're at the point, in order to wait this out, because it's going to hit us in the midterms. Nothing's changed. No needle moved, folks. Not a single needle moved. Go look right now at the Election Assistance Commission. Kamala now has 75 million votes when she cycled out election night at 68. They're adding. They're trying to cover up the Biden because they're going to pull the trigger again. Our team is the only one sitting with factual, court provable, in chain of custody evidence to show this happening over multiple cycles. And frankly, we need your help. The left, the deep state, wants to do everything it can do to make us button up shop, not have it, make it go away. They pay people to attack it. They pay people to troll. We're used to dealing with it all the time. But I just wanted you to understand some of the statutes. You can look them up. It's the GAS Yellow Book and the AICPA, which we're subject to, which is called AU-C-230. which requires us to keep all of this from our last report for 7 to 10 years. That's what you're supporting.
Thank you very much. You got it.
And hey, Steve, I know we got Orlean. She's in good shape, but just before she comes on, I just want to share with the folks that Jovan has, from the very, very beginning, been a strategist that the Defend Florida, Defend Our Union has been following. He has been generous with his strategy, and the difference here in Florida is we just executed what he advised us to execute on. We've had him on calls with our legislators, zooming him in. So Jovan, thanks for bringing the cutting edge to what's needed, and really, really appreciate how you have contributed to the work Defend Florida has been doing. Thank you for that, Jovan. Back to you, Steve.
Okay, Arlene, come on down.
Thank you so much. Can you hear me?
Can hear you.
So I wanted to thank you for allowing me to be part of this wonderful group. I'm so impressed with all of the speakers. Sorry that I missed many of them because I had to take my husband to the doctor. He's on the verge of pneumonia. And anyway, we had to give him a kind of an emergency call with his doctor. But I was able to hear Harry and the other ones from then on. I wanted to thank my friend and Rick Makowski, who was the one who first alerted me to you, and I guess let you, Steve, know about Eagle Forum. And I did notice that one of the callers actually, or your speakers actually mentioned Phyllis Schlafly, and she's the one that made the statement that the most important position in politics was the precinct person in charge. And so she's always been writing about election and election integrity. That's how I kind of first joined Eagle Forum back in 30 years ago. And I began to hear about her wonderful syndicated columns writing about election integrity. And she's still going, well, she was going strong until her death. That was in 2014. But she kind of summarized so many of what your speakers talked about. She totally believed that absentee ballot voting needs to remain limited and controlled, that universal mail-in ballots weaken safeguards, voting outside supervised polling places increases the risk of ballot harvesting and lost or altered ballots. She believed that all elections should be observable, verifiable, and conducted in person whenever possible. She knew that voter ID and citizen requirements would solve a whole bunch of our problems. And she believed in cleaning up our voter rolls. And she definitely believed that we should do everything possible to bring back honest, good elections. And she believed also that our courts and legislature were even causing problems. Some of our courts were rewriting election rules just before the elections. And she believed in a sheer claim of custody when we voted. So I worked in the polls for 5 years here in Sonoma County, Santa Rosa, where I live. And that was when elections were still honest. And we actually counted the ballots ourselves before we then ran them through a little machine that verified our counting. The election was one day, and we had precincts that we were assigned to. Everyone made sure everything was honest. We gathered up our election results, and 2 people took them to where they were then carefully put on a truck and taken and counted and verified. And so things were very different when I was growing up. If we could just get back to that, that would be really wonderful. I also wanted you to know that I wrote a book called The Waning Death of Lady Justice. And in here, I also have the story of Tina Peters. I have Douglas Frank here that we got to hear it in person, and we met Tina Peters in person. This was back in May of 2021. And so I've been following her and praying for her. And I agree with everything that people have said about her and how unbelievably unjust she has been treated. I also have a whole section in the 2000 J6ers, how unjustly they have been treated and how they were picked up by the FBI in such an unjust manner. And I also mention in my book how we have FBI whistleblowers who spoke out about what was going on in 2020 and let us really know that what was happening was totally incorrect. And they were asked to do things that were totally false, but they were willing to speak out and let this be known. And then my last chapter talks about the comparison of what was going on in the Soviet Union when they were collecting all of their political prisoners. That's exactly what Biden was doing when he was accusing these 22,000 innocent J6ers and putting them in prison as a political prisoner. That's what I really believe is happening with Tina Peters. She's like a political prisoner. And I wanted to also let you know that we have two wonderful women who are now on our state board for Eagle Forum of California, Linda Payne and Ruth Weiss. And they've been heading up the Election Integrity Project for many years in California, and we really appreciate them. I've also been working with Rhonda Provost here in Santa Rosa, and she's been wonderful. She's the one that introduced me to Dr. Frank and to Tina Peters. And if I have time, I would like to say something about Ed Martin. May I do that, Steve?
Yep.
So I'm sorry to say I have a total different viewpoint on Ed Martin. Just before Phyllis Schlafly died in 2016, her sons, who were both attorneys, did not want their younger sister, Anne Schlafly Corey, at that time to take over, even though Phyllis had been training her for all of her lifetime to do that. And so they did all sorts of sneaky things, and they brought Ed Martin in to head up Eagle Forum. Well, the board of directors found research on him that he really had a kind of a corrupt background in the state of Missouri, and they brought this forward. And so the board of directors did not approve of him being the new president for Eagle Forum. So a big split happened, and the two brothers and Ed Martin formed another organization all by themselves. They called it Phyllis Schlafly's Eagles, and they continued to call the Phyllis Schlafly report what they are producing, but Phyllis Schlafly never wanted her report to be called that after her death. So the true Eagle Forum, eagleforum.org, publishes it as the Phyllis Schlafly, the Eagle Forum report, and that's been going on since 2016. Ed Martin, we believe, was very conniving, and we did not believe he was an honest man. And I do not believe he is still an honest man. So I have a very different take on him. And I'm glad that President Trump removed him from his position. And I'd be happy to send any information if anyone has questions about him, because we have much evidence about his fraud and what he did to almost destroy the organization of Eagle Forum. But it is going strongly now with Anne Schlafly Corey as the CEO. Actually, her last name is Carpenter. She is remarried after her husband's death. And Chris Ullman is our national president, and they are doing a wonderful job. And we're really proud of the organization of Eagle Forum and for the fact that Phyllis Schlafly has been standing up for honest elections for probably 30 years.
Okay.
Any questions?
Appreciate you coming in. We're going to close this down today because the War Room's got to close down soon. So our next one is going to be March the 2nd. I want to thank my good friend, John Goodman, who's going to be speaking at it. Wish him a good recovery. He's got the flu like a lot of people in Florida. I want to thank Raj, who does a phenomenal job in helping me. He will not be down at Trump Internationally this year. He's actually taking a vacation, and hopefully I'll get on vacation after that also. So this will come on March the 2nd. If you know anybody that wants to come in from Florida, please let me know. Anybody who would like to talk, let me know. We have a lot of people that call that want to come on. We try to keep this on election integrity. Sometimes we get off the track a little bit. We apologize. Our copy will be on Stern American Rumble. You can see it there. As soon as we close this down, it goes live on that. Want to thank Melissa, my assistant, for helping us, Anthony, our tech guy. I want to thank all the podcasts that streamed it, yournews.com, totalnews.com, many people helping us. We appreciate that. The word has to get out because we need to save our country. Some closing remarks from Raj. I'm a little tired. I got to go to a meeting after this for a couple of hours. So I'm
All right. Hey, so me and the dog are going to close it out here. He's running out. So friends, thanks for being here. You guys are the most important part of this entire call. I want to just urge you again, please, to go to theflagshirt.com, theflagshirt.com. Why? Because anything you do there to get gifts for the Valentine's effort. See, I'm putting effort behind it. The Valentine's celebration coming here in 2 weeks. It's going to be amazing gifts for both men and women there. So please get something there. And most importantly, share the recording to this call. Share the recording to this call. Share the recording to this call. If you're asking yourself, how do you do that? Simply go to sternamerican.com, sternamerican.com, look for the Rumble button. Look for the Rumble button, click the Rumble button, and you will see all of these recordings and more right there. So thank you, everyone, for being here. Thank you to the guests. Thank you, Steve. And we will see you next time.
Action, action, action.
There you go. All right. See ya.
The